The final Saturday of summer and a Chamber of Commerce afternoon in New England. Venerable Fenway Park, the backdrop as Red Sox Nation prepares for what they hope to be another month plus of home games on Yawkey Way. Fox Saturday Baseball presents the New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox. And a glance at the pregame standings with only 15 to play during the regular season. The Red Sox with a 2-game lead over Baltimore and Toronto in the East. Yankees 6 out in the division, and perhaps a more realistic 4 back with 15 to play in the wild card race. With that, we welcome you upstairs alongside John Smoltz, Matt Vasgersian. Let's start by talking about the Yankees, John. All kinds of momentum with their young cast of characters. However, they've lost 3 in a row, and the question is, which of the veteran Yankees is going to step up these final 2 weeks of the season?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. When you think about they traded away, they've got this infused young talent, put them in the race, and now they've got basically 4 losses that they can afford the rest of the way. So how do they get it done? Well, they're going to need some veteran guys to step it up. And 2 guys that probably have been under the radar when you think about all that's transpired to get them there, Didi Gregorius and Starlin Castro.
In the lineup today for Joe Girardi and trying to become the first pair of middle infield teammates to lead their team in RBIs in 50 years. So here's the scenario today for the Yankees. It's a good news, bad news. Good news is they've had some success against David Price this year in particular. Bad news is, for the Yankees at least, David Price has been as effective these last weeks as he has all year.
Yeah, he really has. If the Yankees, you only look at the video that you had against them, because the video of the last 7 games is going to tell you that he has been really good. His fastball command on both sides of the plate, 7-0. They're scoring him a lot of runs. It's his changeup in the last game that he fell in love with, to about 26 times. David Price is back where he wants to be, and he's right where the Red Sox had hoped he would be. As they make this stretch run, he's going to be the guy they count on. Obviously the big contract, and now he's on a roll. And it doesn't hurt that they score a lot of runs for him.
I mean, look at the number there. 11.5 runs of support per 9 in winning his last 7 decisions. Almost set for baseball. Another chapter in the storied rivalry between the Red Sox and Yankees. One team will go big. One may have to go home at the end of this regular season. We're back with the starting lineups and the opening pitch from Fenway coming up next. Matt Vasgersian on a really gorgeous afternoon for baseball or anything outdoors in the Boston metro area today. Again, the final Saturday of summer, and Mother Nature is still cooperating as though fall is right around the corner, which in fact it is. It is David Price on the mound for the Red Sox today, and a little bit more on the season he's had, his first after signing that big deal to come to Boston, the richest ever offer to a starting pitcher. Overall, the numbers good. The middle of the season, they got a lot better, and until very recently, his last 7 starts, they have been superb. David Price, so it would seem, John, peaking at exactly the right time for the Red Sox.
Yeah, I don't think people understand how hard, with a big contract in a new city, how much a player can press, and certainly that was some of the effects of his early struggles. But now he's in a groove, and he knows the prize that's ahead of him. He wants to atone for the postseason. He wants to be part of the postseason, and why not? With the Red Sox offense supporting him on the mound with a lot of runs, he is in a nice groove for the Boston Red Sox.
Yeah, a big offensive attack for Boston, and they have supported not only David Price but just about everybody else who's taken the ball for them this year. And Price is ready to go to work against rival New York. A uniform, by the way, that has given him some trouble. Let's check Joe Girardi's Yankees starting lineup for this afternoon. Brett Gardner and ex-Red Sox Jacoby Ellsbury right off the top. Gary Sanchez has been quite the story in New York. The DH with 14 home runs to begin his Yankee career. In a short period of time, he bats third. Starlin Castro, new Yankee Billy Butler, who homered yesterday, and Didi Gregorius, the veteran middle of the order. The switch-hitting third baseman Chase Headley, catcher Austin Romine, and super utility man Rob Refsnyder batting number 9 today. Keys to the game brought to you by the Lincoln Motor Company, John.
Well, price gouging, and that only affects New York because they've had success this year against David Price. He's in a different role now and on a different, really 7-0, so that might change. 6 runs. He's never lost a game in his career when his team has given him 6+ runs. That's a pretty good formula as they average. He averages on the year 6.01 per game per start, so I would say that that number would pretty much do in the New York Yankees.
Let's take a look at the Red Sox defensively while we have a moment. Usually some matchup decisions for John Farrell, and he's got Travis Shaw starting at third base today. Hanley Ramirez up at the opposite corner. He has been red hot. Bogarts and Pedroia up the middle as per usual. The rookie Andrew Benintendi, Jackie Bradley Jr. and Mookie Betts left to right in the outfield, and a guy who's really established himself as the starting catcher in Boston now. A great story, Sandy Leone behind the plate for the Red Sox today. Bill Welke has home plate this afternoon. Crew chief John Hirschbeck working the second base bag. Vic Carapaz and DJ Rayburn the rest of this veteran crew as Brett Gardner digs in, and we're ready for baseball at Fenway Park today. First 2 games so far in this 4-game series have gone to the home-standing Red Sox, as Thursday's loss was one that really sucked a lot of wind out of the Yankee sail. They got here high with a lot of momentum and looking at a very real possibility of sweeping the Red Sox on the road and then going to bed Sunday in first place. That will not be the case, having dropped the last 2. Underway today with strike 1.
Yeah, the Yankees are in almost a must-win scenario. You look at the schedule and what they have ahead of them and what they're trying to do. This would go a long way if they're able to knock off David Price today.
Gardner wraps softly to second base. Dustin Pedroia handles the first down of the day.
What you're going to see out of David Price is not something you could bank on based on his numbers. And what I mean by that is it all depends on what he has for that day. He doesn't stay with a 4-seamer. If his 2-seamer's working, he'll pound the 2-seamer. If he feels like his 4-seamer's better, he'll go with that. If he's got a good feel for his changeups, you'll see a lot of that. So you can't really predict based on the numbers what David Price is going to do. He's one of those rare pitchers that can, on the moment and on the fly, determine what he might be or use for success that day.
They have heard the Alex Rodriguez-like greeting for former Red Sox Jacoby Ellsbury, who digs in with 1 away, and the base is empty. Ellsbury, of course, an all-star as a Red Sox in 2011. His best years here in Boston. Signed a lucrative free agent deal to become a Yankee, and the results have not been quite the same in Yankee pinstripes as they were during his days in Boston. This year, just a .267 average to start play. A ball and a strike, the count to Ellsbury. For David Price, last assignment came Monday against the Orioles, and it fell right in line with his last handful. A lot of run support and a terrific day for him on the mound. 8 innings, 9 punch-outs and no walks, and now a 1-2 count to Jacoby Ellsbury.
Here's the little slider that he throws. He'll throw changeups to right-handers. Primarily, he loves his fastball. He loves it on the glove side of the catcher, into right-handers, away to left-handers. See, he's going to that spot right now.
Soft liner to third. Travis Shaw hadn't played well, and there were 2 gone. Well, as we mentioned, one of the big stories for the Yankees in the second half has been the emergence of Gary Sanchez. Since August 3rd, his OPS, home run total, and extra base hit total are all top 5 numbers in all of baseball. He's playing in just his 42nd career game today, and already through the first 41, he's off to one of the greatest starts in Yankees franchise history.
Yeah, it's really unbelievable. Don't leave a ball out over the plate for this young man. He has almost a Alex Rodriguez-like handle of the bat, and then he's got a small leg kick, and with tremendous power. They're going to try to pound him in and use changeups down in the zone. This is a game of adjustments, and right now the pitchers are having to adjust to his hot start.
Batting with 2 out and the base is empty. Folks settling in here at Fenway Park, and it's a 0-1 count to Gary Sanchez. You know, you can say something like that, John, as we did, that he's off to one of the best starts in franchise history, and there might be some of our father's Yankee fans out there that are making a fisheye face at home, saying, wait a minute, what about Mantle, what about DiMaggio? The numbers do play in that group. 14 home runs through his first 41 games. He hit more through his first 24 games than any other first-year Yankee. Since being summoned from AAA at the time of the arrival of the rest of the, quote, baby bombers, most of his hits have gone for extra bases, and there's the home run note at the bottom of your screen. 11 in 23 games, the fastest to that number in all of Major League history, let alone Yankee lore. Price and Leon taking a moment to get on the same page. Here's the 1-2 home to Sanchez. A swing and a pop-up on the right side of the infield. Hanley Ramirez in the sun field is there to wrap up a 1-2-3 start to the day for David Price. Orioles Red Sox Pepsi starting lineup card for Game 3 of this 4-game weekend series. A bunch of all-stars up at the top. 4-time All-Star Dustin Pedroia leads it off. He has really responded to his new lease in life as a leadoff hitter this year. Bogarts and Ortiz follow in the first. Mookie Betts, Hanley Ramirez, and Travis Shaw bat 4 through 6. Sandy Leon, the switch-hitting catcher, in the 7th spot. Jackie Bradley Jr. and Andrew Benintendi rounded out for John Farrell's Red Sox, a group that is powerful, dangerous, and likes to swing the bat at home. They'll face the rookie Brian Mitchell on the mound to make just his 6th career start here today.
Yeah, this young man's got a good fastball, pretty straight. He'll cut it, throw a curveball and a changeup. I'm not so sure I would want to watch a lot of video of the recent Red Sox, which pitchers will do to kind of get a feel for what their lineup's like. I might leave that alone and just make believe that they're slumping. Because they're not.
Yeah, the Red Sox lineup, as good as it's been all year long, has been particularly dangerous this last month of the season, despite some individual subpar performances. And the guy at the top of the lineup card, Dustin Pedroia, is among those most responsible. 34 games in the leadoff spot, batting over 400 in said games. And that one's into the corner, slicing, and just foul. Almost wrapped that inside the pesky pole.
Well, that's the uniqueness of this ballpark. You have right-handers who could get a little fade swing late. It's a tough read for umpires, tough for the fans, because half of them thought it might have gone. But see, the ball's supposed to be in and it goes away, and it'll be tough to determine, but more than likely that's a foul ball.
A long strike for Dustin Pedroia to put him behind 0-2. That one put in play and foul up the third base way.
Well, there's not a lot of numbers to report on Brian Mitchell. Of course, he's been hurt most of the year, but when he does get 2 strikes, that's where he's going to have success, as most pitchers do. He's got to pitch ahead. Behind, his averages are too high, but with 2 strikes, 0.83 in his brief stint here with the Yankees, trying to provide some innings. There's September call-ups. There is a slew of guys in the bullpen that can pitch, but like your starter to get at least 5 or 6 for Joe Girardi and his matrix of relievers he can bring in.
Next 0-2 home to Pedroia. Out to the opposite field. Ref Snyder is there to make the catch, and that's the first out of the game for Mitchell, who got his season off to a slow start. A player Joe Girardi was counting on coming out of spring training. Ken Rosenthal with a little bit more on that. Kenny.
Matt, absolutely, and this falls into the life is cruel department. Brian Mitchell had made the team, and one day later in spring training, before the final out of his final appearance, he suffered a toe injury that required surgery and a 4-month recovery. This guy was not expected to make the 25-man roster originally, but he had that big spring. And Joe Girardi telling us before the game, one of the worst turf toes they've ever seen. That's what required the surgery, but he was able to throw as he recovered. He would sit on a chair and do that.
Been a long road back for him as he goes to work on Xander Bogaerts now. Has to wear a steel plate in his right shoe, and made a few rehab starts before finally getting back to the big league level. Had a great camp, as Ken mentioned. He is that middle reliever who is now a very important guy on not only the Yankees roster, but rosters all across Major League Baseball.
Yeah, and if you don't understand the components of a pitcher and his feet, the toe, his drag foot, his push-off foot will cause a lot of problems, and that's why you got to have not only your digits, your fingers, no blisters, but your feet be in proper working order, because those are so important for a pitcher. Imagine the amount of times you throw and drag that back foot. You push off, but that back foot's going to drag, and that over time, that's why you have to have that protection on your spikes.
2-strike pitch to Xander Bogaerts, popped into the infield and settling into the glove of Starlin Castro for round number 2. So 2 out, bases empty for the 10-time All-Star. And David Ortiz with a curtain call prior to even settling into the left side of the batter's box.
We know that He's retiring. No one believes it, but because of his feet. And I just love how he walks to the plate like he's walking on pillows, like his feet really do hurt. And then when he actually swings and runs the bases, he can do some damage. What an incredible final year for a guy who has just unreal numbers, not only here but in his career.
The Yankees play him in the overloaded shift on the right side of the field, and Mitchell starts with ball one. David Ortiz starts play today as Major League Baseball's leader in doubles, extra base hits, slugging, and OPS. Not bad for a 40-year-old DH who has announced his plans to take it to the house after the season ends, whenever that may be.
Yeah, he, like much of his teammates, love hitting here. 340 at home, 19 home runs here at home.
Like to have that pass back on the appeal. They say he went around, and it's a ball and 2 strikes.
He obviously was fooled on this pitch, but this is what makes him such a great hitter. He's so smart that now with 2 strikes, his ability to adjust is great.
A swing and a miss, and an all business start to the afternoon by the rookie Brian Mitchell. To the second, no score in Boston. Cialis. Each starter working 3 up and 3 down to start their half of the first inning. So to the top of the second, and Starlin Castro leading things off against David Price. Castro, Butler, and Gregorius here for the Yankees.
Not super aggressive team as a whole, but this is one guy that does like the first pitch. He's looking to swing first pitch fastball. Leads the team in first pitch, actually second the team first pitch hits.
Leads the team in RBIs at the start of play today, and it's kind of an unusual stat for a number of reasons, because on opening day, with veteran guys in the middle of the order like Alex Rodriguez, who's since retired, like Mark Teixeira, who's had a hard time staying healthy this year, you'd never think that Starlin Castro and Didi Gregorius would be the 2 Yankee RBI leaders here in this middle month of September.
It's been a strange year. Yeah, it's been a strange year when you think about everything that gets the Yankees to this point. And what you, as Joe Girardi usually relies on, veteran presence.
Starlin Castro made very quick work of on the first strikeout of the game for Price.
Well, there's the changeup after 2 fastballs. David Price is going to come after you, and when he feels like his fastball is better than yours, just when you think you've got to turn it up as a hitter, he'll change the speed on you and you'll be out in front.
That brings up the newest Yankee, the clean-cut Billy Butler, who homered yesterday. He's driven in 4 runs in his 2 games so far to begin his Yankee career. Butler released by the Oakland A's, a move that's really not in their DNA, swallowing salary the way they will with Butler guaranteed money next year. But upon being released, A's brass quoted as saying the fit was never really a good one. Had a well-publicized flap with a teammate, which resulted in Butler being concussed. Shortly thereafter, he was given his release in Oakland, and the Yankees are hoping to find lightning in a bottle with a veteran right-handed hitter because of what Joe Girardi sees as a lot of left-handed adversaries coming up the last 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah, strange move when you think about when it happened, but with all the lefties they're facing, the Yankees and their quest and really desperation to get to an improbable postseason, they're gonna hope Billy Butler can do his thing against left-handers the rest of the way in.
Ball and 2 strikes, the count from Price. And the Yankees weren't the only team calling, inquiring about Butler's services, Ken Rosenthal, after he was given his papers in Oakland.
Matt, actually, the Tigers called him on Tuesday. And at that point, Butler wasn't sure he wanted to resume playing. He simply could have taken the rest of the season off, tried again next year. He thought about it and thought, okay, I do want to play. And then the Yankees called Wednesday, and the Yankees offered a better opportunity, starting against left-handers as the DH or first baseman, while the Tigers only offered a reserve role.
I think there's something to be said for the appeal of joining the Yankees in September in the middle of a pennant race that would be exciting for just about anybody that had that opportunity. Two balls and 2 strikes, the count to Billy Butler. Well, we mentioned the 4 RBIs in 2 games as a Yankee, and yesterday his presence was felt against the left-handed reliever Fernando Abad in the form of a pinch hit home run. Welcome to New York. Price among the more methodical workers in the American League and taking his time on 2-2 with Butler. Here's the pitch home, and it's a full count now, 3 balls and 2 strikes.
Well, it's a unique approach. It's kind of a side straddle, very small step in his delivery, and then he almost recoils. He really exerts his force when he gets to his landing leg, and it almost looks like he stands up as he delivers the baseball. This little abbreviated has caught on with few pitchers now in the game.
And Butler whacks a 3-2 pitch back up the middle and becomes the game's first base runner here with 1 out in the second.
So you can see really this doesn't seem like much movement, right? It's all meant to get him going squared up to the plate. Everything balance point right there is good, and then he lets it go. And as he comes through, everything being simple, and then he recoils. He gets on that front leg that takes most of the force off of his arm, and then you see that leg up in the air. Pretty good balance to be able to do that, and obviously his length and live fastball helps.
So 1 out, 1 on now for Didi Gregorius, who digs in with 65 runs batted in at the start of the day, second only to the aforementioned Starlin Castro on the team. At the start of the season, you would never have thought that we'd be seeing a matchup like this in the midst of a pennant drive. Didi Gregorius getting a start against a left-handed ace like David Price. Gregorius entered the year as just a .214 career hitter against left-handers, but look what he's become in 2016. Get back to that in a moment as he swings and misses. highest left-handed hitting batting averages against left-handed pitchers, and Gregorius has added almost 100 points to his career average in that capacity.
Yeah, it doesn't really, that's not something you could have predicted, yet alone lead the team in average against lefties. Right now being overmatched on high fastballs. Didi right on top of the plate. With 2 strikes, he's come off the plate just a little bit.
Still 0-2. We talked to Joe Girardi about Gregorius before the game, and Joe told us that one of the things he's most pleased to see is the leadership growth of Didi Gregorius. This is a guy who took over, quote unquote, for Derek Jeter. You talk about an unenviable position to be in. Gregorius not only handled it well in his first year, he's become one of the Yankees team leaders in 2016. Oh, 2 pitches hit into the air out to shallow left. Benintendi is on fourth, and there are 2 away.
I look at Joe Girardi and I just can't imagine. I almost want to say, at what point are you going to be able to enjoy and embrace what's happening here? It's always been, you think about his tenure, he's dealt with aging veterans, icons, and how to handle that, an older team, and then he's got a bullpen that's just lights out. That goes awry, and so do a lot of his high-priced players, and now he's got to blend it in with young future Yankees that instantaneously provided a spark, but now have settled in and obviously struggled a little bit with the exception of Sanchez. What that's got to be like mid-season to go through that as a manager.
Chase Headley now with 2 away, the switch hitting third baseman. He's hit safely in 15 of his last 19. Well, and compounding all that for Joe Girardi, John, is the fact that he's still trying to be postseason relevant. Right. It's one thing to grow a young team or a team in transition when you're already faced with elimination, but there's no such leash in New York City.
I almost sense that when they went in that direction, it was like okay, we're going to rebuild, we're going to plan for the future, we're going to watch these guys develop, and all of a sudden, boom, 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 they're right in it. And now how do you massage these guys through? How do you get them to the point where you try and expect to win every game? That's got to be the hard part when you're dealing with young players. Even though they won in the minor leagues, it's still different up here.
Well, only 3 teams in the American League have a better record since August 1st, which is when they transitioned away from the veterans unofficially. It's a foul tip that catches Sandy Leon, so home plate umpire Bill Welke gives him a moment. Kenny, I don't know that that the word concede is in the Yankee DNA, even when they did sell off a lot of veteran players.
Right, Matt. And remember, they acquired Adam Warren and they acquired Tyler Clippard, and Girardi never conceded. He never said for 1 minute we're rebuilding. He kept talking about winning games, and that approach is partly why they're in this position, which of course has surprised everyone in baseball.
Ball and 2 strikes, the count to Chase Headley. Into the corner, moving Betts, and ending the inning. 1 out single left stranded, an inning and a half gone at Fenway, no score. sponsored by Hyundai. Scoreless in the middle of the second, headed to the bottom of the inning for Mookie Betts, Hanley Ramirez, and Travis Shaw. Brian Mitchell with a successful start to the day, retiring the top of the order without incident in the first. And back to work here in the second against one of the Red Sox league MVP candidates this year. Mookie Betts, an all-star for the first time this season with a .313 batting average, 30 and 105. He's stolen 24 bases, played brilliant defensive baseball, and is very much in the conversation for MVP honors. There's a high fly ball into shallow left, and it drops in. Well, some miscommunication between Didi Gregorius and Brett Gardner, and it results in the leadoff hitter reaching base for Boston.
Left field here, you never really have to play deep because of the left wall, and I think he got confused right there. Did Gardner, as soon as Didi put his arms up a little bit, right about there, I think Gardner kind of pulled back, thinking that he was under it. So when you're going good and you're having a special year, you'll take that. It looks like a line drive in the score box.
Yeah, scored a single for Mookie Betts. So Boston's first hit is a sunshine assisted misplay. Here's Hanley Ramirez now. He's been red hot down the stretch. The three-time All-Star has homered in each of the first two games of the series, driving in 5 runs. And while a couple of Red Sox hitters have hiccuped in September, Hanley has finally found his stride here at just the right time.
His power numbers are unbelievable in the second half. 18 homers, and certainly this lineup gets longer and longer with each guy being successful. It's the most difficult lineup, I think, to navigate through as a pitcher, especially here at home. They have absolutely raked at home.
And Betts being checked in on it first. Well, they are first or second in a lot of the big categories when they're here at Fenway Park. Say what you will about the ballpark, we know it's conducive to high scoring affairs. Boston has taken advantage of that and some individually brilliant seasons to put together some big home numbers.
That last play, that's why I'm an advocate, by the way, of a team error. Nobody gets the individual error. The batter gets his hit, and the pitcher doesn't get penalized for a ball that we all know should have been caught. Team error. Nice little addition should be put out there. What do you think?
I'm thinking about it. I like that idea.
Team error.
I will say most of your stuff I don't really like. But that one, that's a good one. Betts off first, and Ramirez fouls that one away. It's 2-2.
I mean, when a ball's up in the air that long, everybody knows it should be caught. If it's a sun ball, you can't give an error to a particular player. You don't rob the hitter, but you certainly should punish the pitcher.
So the team error does not affect anybody's earned run average, because I know that's important to
right. He should be out, right?
Right.
And you cannot not give him a hit because nobody touched the ball. And who do you give the error to? So that's why they choose not to. If you had a team error, it goes in the team category and an error.
One of those nobody gets hurt type things.
Correct.
2 balls and 2 strikes on Hanley Ramirez. Well, you know, back to the Red Sox and the work they do offensively here at home. They have an OPS difference of .095 at home. Only the Rockies and Indians, curiously, have as great a difference in their home and road team OPS. Individually speaking, Red Sox hitters just love being here at Fenway Park. That's been the case historically for a lot of years. Betts runs, and Ramirez puts it in play. That's going to be a tough chance for Headley. Long throw is not in time. A sun-assisted bloop hit into left, and then a dribbler up the third baseline. And the Red Sox are in business with nobody out in the second.
Yeah, this is really tough on a pitcher when you made 2 batters exit velocity is
what you want. Barely barreling up the ball, but they've got 2 hits to show for it. And what you really have to do, much like here in Colorado, is you've got to find a way to stay away from the crooked numbers, because Boston can throw up a crooked number here as good as anybody, and they've done that not only in David Price starts, but recently those 3 and 4 and 5 spots in an inning, they just take the air out of a team.
Travis Shaw in the middle of a good homestand. He's 5 for 14 on this current stand here at Fenway Park, and he's got a golden opportunity here. Nobody out, runners at first and second. Shaw had an RBI double in last night's Boston win. These have been situations where Travis Shaw, responding to regular playing time, has been much better. Base is empty, a .230 hitter. The numbers get better as the higher leverage situation approaches. Not so much this time. Infield pop, another sun chance for Gregorius and Gardner, and this time the shortstop makes the catch for the first out of the inning.
Well, this time they're protected because they would have got an out even if it did drop. Pretty decent wind affecting high pop-ups, but more importantly, left field is not an easy position to play. With that wall behind you, you almost feel like anything hit in the air is going to hit that monster unless it's a true pop-up.
So 1 away with 2 runners aboard for the switch hitting catcher Sandy Leon. He too has hit safely in each of the first 2 games of the series. It has been quite a breakout year for a guy who was known as a backup, if not third string catcher, to begin his career as a Washington National. Through last season in 75 career games, just a .187 hitter with 1 home run. This year he struck for 7 home runs and starts play batting .345. That in a 68 game sample. Now, is Sandy Leon going to hit .345 for 162 games? Probably not. But the Red Sox have found some offensive upside at the catcher position this year. It's a fly ball for Ellsbury and out number 2. So now it's going to be up to Jackie Bradley Jr. to try and not waste a first and second nobody out situation.
Jackie, of course, had a rather long hitting streak. Everybody, so-called smart people in baseball, were clamoring for him to be up in the order. Move him up, move him up. Well, we had a talk with John Farrell today about his batting order and the interesting facts that come into play when he constructed his current batting order that exists for the Red Sox today.
Bradley takes a fastball for a strike.
Sometimes the numbers and the sabermetrics that call for certain guys to bat in certain places don't always work out. Sometimes even maybe not a prototypical leadoff guy ends up being there like Dustin Pedroia, and they take off and he takes off.
Well, the flavor of the day kind of philosophy on where to bat your best hitter, according to all the new data and all the new ways to measure value of an offensive player, is you bat your best offensive player second. Not unlike what the Pirates have done to Andrew McCutchen all year this year, leading to perhaps contributing to what's been one of his worst offensive seasons to date. Other teams have benefited from that. The thing is, if you're the Red Sox and you have the ability to have such a long lineup, I don't know that it's as important. You know, this is not one guy in a merry band of renown. This isn't Brian Dozier and the Minnesota Twins.
Right.
They have a bunch of guys that could lay claim to being the best hitter on the roster. One thing is for sure, when John Farrell changed the top of his order and put Pedroia at leadoff, the Red Sox really took off. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
They did, and he had a conversation with the top 3 guys, because if people don't understand, some guys in some positions don't like it. A certain guy may not like the 4 spot, or a certain guy says, you can't bat me here, it's not what I'm doing. Well, with Pedroia, he was struggling a little bit with hitting in double plays. And so he said, look, this is what we're going to do. This is what I'd like to do. He talked to all 3 of them. And like you said, since he put Dustin Pedroia in the #1 spot, not only has he personally taken off, this team has, and it seems like it's the perfect lineup.
Rocketed foul. Well, and it's not like you could have looked at past history and just guessed that Pedroia would flourish at the leadoff spot. Even in his MVP season in 2008, Dustin hit leadoff 17 times and did not have success. Hit barely over 200, had an on-base percentage of .250. It's been a different story this year, however. Betts and Ramirez aboard with 2 gone. Still 2 balls and 2 strikes to Jackie Bradley Jr. And a full count now. The rookie Andrew Benintendi waiting on deck.
Yeah, the bottom line about this lineup, there's just not a weak spot. There's nowhere to go. If you're not hitting with your pitches, if you don't have any secondary pitches working, you are going to have a short outing, period, against this lineup, especially here in Fenway.
Runners will be going with 2 out. On the 3-2 pitch home from Mitchell to Bradley, and a swing and a miss, and Brian Mitchell gets out of a tight spot, first and second with nobody out, as he retires Shaw, Leone, and Bradley to keep it scoreless in Boston. Undeniable greatness and unstoppable drama. The 2016 postseason begins October 4th. Go to MLB.com/postseason for a full schedule. David Price back to work for the top half of inning number 3. He gets Austin Romine, Rob Refsnyder, then the top of the order, Brett Gardner for New York. 3 singles so far. A base hit by the Yankees in the second that laid waste, and then a couple of singles to start the second, and Boston failed to capitalize, keeping this game 0-0 early on. You know, we talked last half inning about some of the decisions that John Farrell has had to make in terms of his batting order. Joe Girardi faced with decisions of his own, though a little different. And one of the issues that he's had to deal with since the emergence of Gary Sanchez is how to get 3 catchers reps behind the plate. Sanchez is a plus defensive catcher in addition to having the big bat. Brian McCann's a 7-time All-Star that has borderline Hall of Fame-ish type numbers. And Austin Romine is a guy that they need to keep fresh because he too is an important player.
Yeah, and coming down the stretch, certainly when you've put a lot into Brian McCann and maybe not having his best offensive year this year, I wonder if first base is an option next year or somewhere else.
Sounded like a broken bat, but one that'll die happy with a base hit coming into left center.
And that's somewhere else, I mean by another team. But with Tex retiring, it's going to be awfully interesting to see how the Yankees position themselves next year with the makeup of the team, and do they stay young and go with the big slugging type guys that they have. I mean, Aaron Judge is a monster, by the way.
Yeah. There's Rob Refsnyder now. He takes over that right field spot today. Refsnyder has been a very versatile player for the Yankees in a number of different call-up stints with the big league team. Just 1 for his last 12 with the bat, however. Leadoff hitter aboard here in the New York third.
But you know, when you were to match these two teams up statistically and you didn't put names above the headings, it's not even a fair fight. But yet the Yankees have kind of worked their way in this situation. Offensively, you're looking at the best in Boston and not so good New York Yankees, and that usually is not the case. Pitching, a little bit more similar, a little bit more of closer numbers. Boston struggled with their bullpen a little bit early, their starters early, and what New York has done, and what I think Joe Girardi should be commended for, is the fact that he has kept this team together in so many different capacities. I mean, 36, 37 different pitchers, and the array of players that he's had to use, and to have a shouting chance is pretty amazing. It really is.
Well, and as nicely as things have worked out for the Yankees since the median age was lowered, they are trying to avoid what would be the 4th time in Joe Girardi's managerial tenure that the Yankees have missed the postseason. And they are on the outside looking in, despite the good month of August, despite the good month of September. The 2 losses to start this series, the impact of those losses can't be overstated. Again, they came here Thursday night knowing that a sweep would put them in first place on Sunday night. They lose the first 2, and Thursdays in heartbreaking fashion when they were walked off here. That was a big time momentum changer.
Well, you're playing for your life, and you know that the schedule is a little bit tougher because the teams you're playing are also playoff contenders. So if you could rise to the occasion and somehow win each series all the way through the end of the season, you get yourself in the playoffs. I mean, they're still not out of it, but like I said early in the open, you've only got basically 4 losses left, and when you start looking at it like that, it's bad.
Second strikeout of the game for David Price as he rings up Rob Refsnyder. Well, as we talk about schedules down the stretch, only Toronto and Baltimore have as many as 1 series out of the division. For everybody else, the duration of the schedule now is all within the AL East. And as we talked about those standings at the start of play, Boston with a 2-game lead over Toronto and Baltimore, and the Yankees a distant 4th in that divisional race.
Tough game tomorrow night, traveling to Tampa. Be a rough part of the schedule just to get down there in the wee hours of the morning and still try to be fresh to compete that night.
Here's the top of the order, Brett Gardner now. He grounded to second base to start the first inning today. The rest of the East plays later on tonight. Tampa Bay's in Baltimore.
That was a crazy game last night. the tying run get thrown out. Britton in the game to save it.
Gardner sends a ball out to right center field. That's going to split Betts and Bradley and roll all the way to the 420 mark. Plenty of time for Romine to come around and score on an RBI triple by Brett Gardner. 1-0 Yankees.
One of the uniqueness of this stadium is that spot right there. That is definitely a triple when it gets by the outfielders. It goes right into that corner, 420 feet out. And at this point, he knows he's got pretty much an easy trek home. Just don't stumble, don't trip.
So the Red Sox will bring the infield in with 1 out and a runner at third for Jacoby Ellsbury, who lined to shortstop in his first at bat today. You know, I always wonder about things like this, John, as the Yankees have broken through against David Price. Price does not have good numbers against the New York Yankees. They are particularly bad at Yankee Stadium. But there are a handful of Yankees in this lineup today, and here's one of them, Jacoby Ellsbury, who you'd think would be kind of challenged against a left-hander. But Ellsbury has really thrived against David Price in his career. I mean, he's faced him a lot. Here are Price's numbers against the Yankees. It's a 14-9 record. He's made more starts against New York than any other team. There's nothing wrong with those numbers, certainly, but the recent returns have not been good. A ball and 2 strikes to Ellsbury. And what I wonder about is this, and you can answer this, having faced the same uniform a lot of times in your career. Is there ever something to the fact that a team has some intel, somebody has a tell against a certain guy that they can go to every start?
Oh yeah, there's always instances of that. You're constantly trying to watch your own video and have people. When you start seeing numbers that aren't normal, you start thinking like that. Regardless if it's legit or not, you start thinking like that as a pitcher, and you're looking over your shoulder on every aspect that you can.
On the ground to first, Ramirez has it and keeps the runner at bay. Gardner has to hold it third on out number 2.
That's a great job by David Price. He stayed firm in, didn't get the call on one of the pitches, but didn't deviate from his plan. And he understands that, you know, you want to be able to keep that runner and scoring, and certainly he feels a lot better about the execution of that pitch than he did to Gardner. But Matt, you find things work out certain ways and you can't always explain them, and then sometimes it is as simple as, hey, we got this, he's tipping here, or we know something that nobody else does, or we just see the ball better. And I'm a big believer that small sample of this year will work itself out as he continues to pitch for the Red Sox.
Here's Gary Sanchez now trying to pick up that 2-out runner at third. You know, I guess what surprises me is if a team has intel against a certain starter, it always surprises me when that doesn't go anywhere outside the clubhouse, because, you know, a guy gets traded, personnel changes, and they take that information with them. I guess by that time that starter's had a chance to make an adjustment. These have been situations that have challenged the Yankees this year. A .231 batting average collectively with runners in scoring position. That's last in the American League. And Gary Sanchez, for all of his success in his rookie season, is just 3 for 25 in spots like this.
Yeah, the tendency for young players to get a little over aggressive, try to do a little too much, and not recognize what the pitcher is actually doing, or if the base is open, how he's going to pitch him.
Late. A 95 mile an hour fastball makes it 2-1.
This was just a better pitch than the location. He's trying to go in, but see, that's the pitch he likes. That's Sanchez's wheelhouse, but the velocity and the timing of him swinging the bat were not in his favor. David Price can rush it up there and make people look sick on his fastball as well as his other pitches.
2-1 pitch to Sanchez is fouled away, and it's a even count now of 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Matt, if you don't mind, I'm going to be real cautious on foul balls in this ballpark. Had a bad experience.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I'm going to let you. If anything comes up to our booth, I'm going to let you deal with it, if that's okay.
Yeah. How a broadcaster can get hit.
It's unbelievable.
Where you got hit at a place that could make the lowest of voice a soprano, if you know what I mean,
Yes,
America.
it is unbelievable.
I don't know how that happens, but it did.
We're going to get one too. Look, I'm just as nervous as I can be. We're going to get one today.
Still 2 balls and 2 strikes to Gary Sanchez.
Tell you what.
I mean, we're not close by any stretch.
But this is a much bigger booth than the booth that I was in. So that even made it more impossible.
Starlin Castro waiting on deck. Yankees looking for more, having broken the seal on the RBI triple by Brett Gardner this inning. Oh, and Gary Sanchez has liftoff. Oh, up and over the monster. 3-0 New York. The Yankees monster hits one over the green monster. And New York's success against David Price seems to be continuing on this Saturday afternoon.
That is an impressive at bat, because this is where guys have been pitching Mr. Sanchez and having success. He's been able to crush a lot of pitches over the plate, but at first sight I thought that ball was in, and he went and got it almost as if he knew that pitch was going to be in that spot. His bat was ready for a 94, 95 mile an hour fastball. So I'm just impressed. I didn't know if it was possible to win the Rookie of the Year in this short a period of time.
There's Starlin Castro now as we take another look.
That pitch probably not in as much as David would like it, but as soon as he made contact, I mean, that ball was out in a hurry.
Number 15 for Gary Sanchez.
He sets the bat on his shoulders, reminds me of Alex Rodriguez. He's comfortable in the box. Reminds me of just a veteran presence that just has been here the whole time. I just can't even imagine what goes through it. I've never seen anybody do this. I've never seen somebody get called up and impact a team this much in this short a period of time.
Everybody has taken notice, including some recent Yankee alums, Ken Rosenthal.
Yes, Matt, in Alex Rodriguez's final news conference, the thing that stood out, the one comment that stood out the most, was when he said what he saw Gary Sanchez do in a series right here in Fenway Park. He thought to himself, I can't do that anymore. And that's Gary Sanchez's ability, the ability Alex Rodriguez once had, and now we see every day from the Yankees catcher.
26 extra base hits, the most by any Yankee through his first 41+ games since Joe DiMaggio got to a slightly higher number in his rookie season of 1936.
And that's what's so impressive. Like this game, I keep saying, everyone will tell you, any rookie that comes up, veteran's going to go, hey, young man, this is a game of adjustments.
Castro sends a fly ball to Betts in right. That'll wrap it up. Not before the Yankees get 3, thanks in part to the Sanchez, Gary Sanchez. A booming home run, his 15th of the year, and the Yankees take a 3-0 lead. Andrew Benintendi leads off in the Boston half of the third. The Red Sox playing from behind after a 3-run rally by the Yankees in the top of the inning. Benintendi, Pedroia, and Bogaerts here for Boston. The Red Sox rookie outfielder has hit safely in 3 straight. And hitting for power too. 8 of his last 14 hits have been for extra bases. A pleasant surprise when you consider the knee injury that Andrew suffered just a few weeks ago. Looked like it was one that could have cost him his rookie season. Reinstated on Tuesday after being placed on the DL at the end of August, on the 25th in Tampa to be exact. And it looked a lot worse when he was being carried off the field. Everybody kind of held their breath after the big impact Benintendi had after coming up from Double-A. Two balls and 2 strikes.
Well, he's just another one of those slew of prospects that the Red Sox have been pouring out. Sweet swinging prospect. Just looks like he was meant to hit. This overkill of outfielders has certainly worked itself out here in Boston.
There's a common theme there too as Benintendi gets to a 3-2 count. Not so much in Benintendi's case, but a player like Brock Holt, Mookie Betts, they're all in the 6-foot and under club, and all of them at one point were going to play second base. There's a drive into center field. Ellsbury back, still moving back and playing it off the monster. Off the center field wall, that is. And Benintendi coasts into second with a booming 2-base hit to start the inning.
Always amazed at the angles of which we watch a ball get hit. You've got the center field angle. He's straight on. You heard the crowd right away when he hit it. This ball was hit a lot better than even Ellsbury thought as he goes all the way back there. Makes a good recovery. This ball could have taken a much different hop, but that ball was squared up.
So now Dustin Pedroia, and to finish the thought, it's Dustin Pedroia who kind of redirected that aforementioned group of diminutive stars into an outfield existence. He wasn't going anywhere, especially after signing an 8-year contract extension a couple of years ago. So guys like Betts, Holt, they have settled in elsewhere, and all has worked out fine. Pedroia lined to right to start the home first. Into right field and well hit. Handled by Refsnyder. Benintendi will head to third. But Dustin Pedroia has really hit a couple of balls hard so far today and has very little to show for it.
Well, he starts going to right field a little bit more to tell you how locked in he is at the plate. He gets the job done, moves the runner over to third. He stands so far away from the plate, it's so inviting. You think you got to pitch him in, you're doing him a favor.
So a 1-out runner at third now for Xander Bogaerts. Great season numbers for the Boston shortstop. However, he is one of a couple of Red Sox who has seen diminishing returns here in September. .295 overall, but just .212 since the start of August. And on the first pitch, he sends the ball out to left. Gardner looking at it. It bounds off the base of the wall. The second double of the inning. And the Red Sox are on the board in the third.
That's what this place will do. It started with an 0-2 count to Benintendi. Mitchell wasn't able to make a good enough pitch to put him away. With the runner on third, Bogaerts just had to really get it in the air, so he was looking to lift. Not a bad pitch. He lifted it and got rewarded with a double at the same time. So people don't understand the approach to hitting changes based on where the hitters are, and at least they should. It's much easier to get a runner in from third than it is from second, because there's a lot of ways you can get them in from third.
There's David Ortiz now. 3 home runs in his last 6 games. He struck out in the first. By the way, regarding Bogaerts, he entered that plate appearance just 2 for his last 17 with runners in scoring position. And that one gets away from Romine. A free 90 feet for Bogaerts.
Yeah, he crossed him up. You get 3 runs as a pitcher. There's the cross up, looking for a fastball, and he throws him a curveball. It's a tough pass ball, I can tell you that.
Mookie Betts waiting on deck for Boston. Fly ball makes it a 1-run ball game. 2-1 to David Ortiz. 115 RBIs this year for Big Papi. See the note there. In his age 40 season, David will be 41 in November. He's got another steak on the grill right there.
It's just amazing. I mean, they got a chance, a realistic chance for 4 guys with 100 RBIs and outside chance of 5. But as David said, the way this lineup has produced, he doesn't have to carry the club. He's benefiting from everybody in front of him. Of course, the guys are benefiting behind him when he is on base a lot.
A .364 hitter with runners in scoring position this year, and that's a top 10 average in all of baseball. Into the shift. It's going to get a run home. RBI number 116 for David Ortiz.
Easy RBI, and at some point right there he thinks he's got a chance to get ahead, but then the flats came out. He realized.
Here's Mookie Betts now. He singled back in the second. It was at misplay in left between Gardner and Gregorius on a fly ball that dropped in. You know, I get the shift against David Ortiz, and it's nothing new. I mean, we talk about it a lot. There have been 500 shifts against him this year. Only Chris Davis has been shifted against more. But take a look at the field there. Not only is a ground ball there going to score a run, but there's nobody even close to third base, and that gave Xander Bogaerts a walking lead to the plate. A ground ball to shortstop. Gregorius has it, not before the Red Sox have 2. We'll talk more about the pros and cons of the Big Papi shift as we continue a 1-run ball game in Boston. In college football is on Fox for the first time in 33 years. Number 3 Ohio State takes on Oklahoma. A matchup of two of the nation's premier quarterbacks, the Buckeyes J.T. Barrett and the Sooners Baker Mayfield. Coverage starts at 7 Eastern only on Fox. Well, David Price with a 1-run deficit as per usual. The Red Sox scoring on his behalf. This is a starter that's getting over 11 runs of support per 9 innings through a 7-game winning streak, and he'll go back to work now against Billy Butler, Didi Gregorius, and Chase Headley. A 3-2 ball game starting the 4th.
I still can't believe it. I mean, that just doesn't sound real. That is dream scenario. 11 runs on average. Wow. 6 is good. That's what we've been getting on the year.
Right. There are always those guys that have a lot scored on their behalf and those guys that just can't buy a run. It's a dangerous combination for an opponent when, you know, the team's ace is the guy benefiting from all that run support. 2 balls and a strike to count to Billy Butler. So we didn't have a chance to really finish the thought on the shift against David Ortiz that resulted in that ground ball and the RBI. And I know you have your thoughts about it. I guess David Ortiz is the guy that really began so much of this, a swing and a miss, and there's one away. Joe Madden in his years in Tampa St. Pete would regularly shift against David Ortiz, and in a copycat league, in a copycat industry, everybody else jumped in. But look at what the Yankees have here. Castro is in shallow right. A ground ball anywhere there scores a run. I mean, a ground ball really scores a run because nobody can hold the runner at third because Headley has to play toward the shortstop spot. If there's a place where you might think about not shifting against David Ortiz, for me, it might be a place like that.
Yeah, and then just walk him, right? You know, I mean, you're just giving him a run, and you're hoping that he just doesn't hit it out of the ballpark. But David Ortiz is so smart of a hitter. It's not a fluke. It's not just because he's more talented. He understands what they're trying to do, how they're trying to pitch him, when he can go the other way, when he's going to drive the ball over the outfielder's head. And he's proven it in his final year. Hall of Fame numbers.
A ball and a strike to count to Didi Gregorius. Late that time on 95, and it's 1-2. You know, to your point on Ortiz, it's not just the damage he's doing against fastballs this year. His slugging percentage against breaking balls is in the mid-500s. It's one of the best numbers in the big leagues this year. What's the old adage that when your mind finally figures this game out, that's around the time your body fails you?
Yeah. That wasn't the case for me. My body failed me a lot earlier.
Gregorius sends a flare out to shallow right. Betts lays out and can't make the catch. A 1-out single for Didi Gregorius in the 4th.
I think he got a great read off the bat there, but tried the closing speed to get it at the last minute. Almost does find the glove. See that real delay right there, that quick. This game is so reactive and has so much instincts. Some guys can do more than one thing on one event too. Blowing a bubble as he was coming in. But the sun and just the angles of this stadium make it difficult for outfielders to react quick enough sometimes.
There's Chase Headley now with 1 out and 1 on. Headley flied out to right to end the 2nd inning today. Well, Chase has polished up the 2016 season to the tune of 14 home runs and a .257 batting average. And while those numbers may not blow you out of the water, when you consider he didn't land his first extra base hit until the month of May.
Yeah.
He has done a great job to make this a bounce back year. just could not have gotten off to a more difficult start.
Yeah, you start wondering a lot of things when you go that long into the season and you struggle for that much. Whether he showed it or not, his approach made it feel like sooner or later things are going to even themselves out. But you go home with a lot of doubt.
Checked his swing and takes a strike. A ball and 2 strikes, the count to Headley. Better things have happened for Chase Headley earlier in plate appearances. When he sees at least 3 pitches in an at bat, he hits under 200 this year. You saw Austin Romine waiting next. Gregoria stays put, and it's still 1-2. Series wraps up tomorrow when Drew Pomerantz draws CC Sabathia. Battle of left-handers tomorrow. And as John mentioned earlier, it's difficult to overstate the importance of the remainder of this series for the Yankees. Ball and 2 strikes to Headley. Sabathia coming off a brilliant start last time around against the Dodgers.
Well, Tanaka has been really good. You mentioned CC coming on, and then these youngsters trying to fill up the void in the rotation. They just haven't had enough depth throughout the year to be consistent enough. Severino has been great out of the pen, gapping it kind of 3 innings here, 2 innings. I got to believe Severino's still going to be a dynamite starter, probably in the rotation next year.
Headley settles back in. Still a ball and 2 strikes to him. Price working out of the stretch once more. 1 out, 1 on here in the 4th in a 1-run ball game. On the ground and through the hole on the left side. A reminder, today's telecast is sponsored by Verizon. Welcome to Verizon LTE Advanced, the next gen network. And by Michelob Ultra, brewed for those who go the extra mile. Back-to-back 1-out singles here in the Yankee half of the 4th. And another chance for Austin Romine, who singled and scored the first run of the day back in the 3rd.
Headley did a nice job on that previous at bat, just fighting off the fastballs he couldn't catch up to. And then at 91 miles an hour was able to get out in front and pull the ball through the hole.
Now the Yankees have already matched their hit total with runners in scoring position today from all 9 yesterday. There's a high fly ball into left. Benintendi back, feeling for the monster, turning his back to the infield, and it's an extra base hit for Austin Romine. Here are 2 runs to score. Romine to 3rd. A monster assisted 2-run extra base hit for Austin Romine that gives the Yankees their 3-run lead back.
Well, this is a perfect example of what I was talking about, the angles of this ballpark and how difficult it is for certain people to pick up the ball. So the ball off the bat is, the guy at second can't see if this ball is going to hit the wall or not, but Headley was right on his tail because he could see that angle much better. Here's Headley. He watches the ball. Now he knows at that point it's going to hit off the wall. So watch how close he stays with the runner at second, and they're going to almost tandem score. So the angles at this ballpark are much more difficult depending on where you are to read the ball off the bat and know where it's going to hit off of some of these quirky walls and just the uniqueness of Fenway.
Infield in for Boston now after the 2-run double by Romine. He advances to 3rd on the throw. Here's Rob Refsnyder now.
So Didi's at second base. This is a harder read. He's looking at the wall at a shorter distance. He can't tell, and he turns it on at the end, allowing him and his teammate to score a big 2 runs.
Nothing in 1. The count to Rob Refsnyder, trying to snap out of a 1 for 13 at the plate. Now he's behind 0-2 as he couldn't catch up to 96 that time from David Price. That's his best fastball velocity of the afternoon. Six straight starts for David Price, having allowed no fewer than 2 runs. And 5 earned against him here today in just 3 1/3. A swing and a miss, and he finishes off Refsnyder for out number 2.
That's what's so complexing about what he can do to hitters. Right now, his fastball is too good to be giving up 5 runs to the Yankees. He is definitely been on a roll with his fastball and off speed, but as you mentioned, a green monster double right there. That's an out just about every ballpark.
Yeah, pretty much every ballpark except for this one. You saw Heath Hembree, the right-hander, up in the bullpen as the Red Sox get him hot in a hurry. Here's Brett Gardner now. Gardner tripled in a run back in the 3rd. Yankees having success from both sides of the plate against David Price today. Fastball misses the corner. 2-0. These 2 big innings, 3 in the 3rd and 2 here in the 4th, have a way of really quieting down a sold-out crowd at Fenway today. Red Sox keeping alive a consecutive string of sellout crowds. That one flared foul.
But they know the magic number 6, so if they can keep the Yankees at 5, their team's going to find a way to score 6 or more runs just by what we've documented.
Well, Thursday was a great example of that. One of the biggest home wins of the season here for the Red Sox. That come from behind walk-off that finished off the Yankees.
Let's see the tally there. Last 2 innings have been a rough one.
2-1 to Gardner. Again misses inside with a fastball. It's 3-1 now. David Price takes his time, and by average only Hisashi Iwakuma of the Mariners is slower between pitches. Price takes over 25 seconds between pitches. It doesn't matter if the bases are empty, if he's in a jam, if he's working out of the stretch, out of the wind. He's very deliberate on the mound. Gardner sends a ball out to right. Well hit. Betts is there, parking in front of it to finish off the inning. 2 more for the Yankees, however, on 3 hits. There was a man left, and at the end of 3 1/2, it's 5-3 rather, New York. Double making it a 5-2 lead for the Yankees. I had it at 5-3 going to break. What's a run between friends? 5-2 is the score here as we enter the home half of the fourth. Hanley Ramirez leads things off against Brian Mitchell for the Red Sox.
Maybe you knew something was about to happen.
I've never never even tried. Hanley singled back in the second. Kind of an excuse me roller against the pushed back third baseman that put runners at first and second with nobody out against Mitchell in the second. A jam he got out of. Gave up the 2 in the third.
Mitchell was in the same situation when he was given 3 runs, 0-2 on the first hitter, and the inning didn't turn out so good. Let's see if he fares better when his team rewarded him with 2 runs in the top of the fourth. Getting that first hitter is so important when your team scores. I can't undersell that enough.
Oh, 2 the count to Hanley Ramirez. Let's take you back to Thursday's series opener. We've made reference to it earlier. Last pitch of the game. Walk-off winner by Hanley Ramirez. The numbers courtesy of StatCast, powered by Amazon Web Services. A 426-foot walk-off winner. Hanley's second home run of the series coming yesterday. You know, going back a little bit farther, it hasn't been just this series for Hanley Ramirez. 6 home runs in his last 9 games, 9 in his last 16 games. Maybe more importantly, the Red Sox have won each of the last 10 games in which Hanley Ramirez has driven in a run. On a hop for Castro, and the leadoff man's retired in the fourth.
You see where the shadow is now, just creeping into the batter's box, almost covering both of the batter's box, the pitcher's mound in the sunlight. In about 2 or 3 innings, it's maybe even less, it could get a little bit more difficult this time of year and day games.
Would you ever change your repertoire based on that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. First thing I always do is ask the catcher, what can't you see? And if you can't see it, sorry buddy, but I'm throwing it, because that means the hitter can't see it. If you can't see spin, if the shadow, the brightness, it depends obviously on what kind of stuff you have on the mound, but that's the first question I always ask the catcher when we get back in the inning. I used to love and beg to find those day games where you knew that if you could do your job early and get the lead, you were going to get the benefit of the shadow.
Ball and a strike, the count to Travis Shaw. He popped a shortstop in his first at bat.
I really believe part of not only the way this team is constructed, but the hitting background is so good here. You've got, could attribute to why they've loved to hit here and their team success and the average, but anything that gives you an advantage as a pitcher, you certainly want to take it, especially to this team when they are so offensively connected.
2 balls and 2 strikes to Travis Shaw. Catcher Sandy Leon waits next. 1 out, bases empty in a 3-run game here in the home fourth. Shaw would love to have that swing back. So 2 away, and that'll bring in the former Washington National, who, when traded by Washington to Boston, not a lot of conversation ensued, but it's a deal that certainly has paid dividend for the Red Sox. Kenny Rosenthal.
Matt, that deal was for the old cash considerations at the end of 2015 spring training. What happened at the time is that the Nationals had Wilson Ramos, Jose Lobaton, a bunch of young catchers coming. Leon was out of options. And Mike Rizzo, the Nationals general manager, told me he loved Leon. Personally scouted him and signed him in 07, but he never hit in the minors. The bat never came. In the minors, .238 batting average in more than 2,000 at-bats.
Fly ball out to left field for Brett Gardner to retire the side in order. A nice bounce back inning for Brian Mitchell, who holds his 3-run lead through 4. MLB is celebrating the many ways Latinos put an accent on baseball. Share how you put an accent on the game with hashtag Polenta. I knew I was going to get this wrong, John. Poldenacento. Poldenacento. Spanish for accent.
Glad I didn't read it.
Yeah. Box that one again. Here's Jacoby Ellsbury leading things off in the New York half of inning number 5. A 5-2 lead for the Yankees. Ellsbury, Sanchez, and Castro here against David Price. You know, this is start number 4 against the Yankees, and those were the numbers in his previous 3 against New York. Not faring as well this afternoon as you would have thought based on his recent returns, having won 7 in a row. So when you add together the damage in the 3+ starts against New York this year, Price is just the 9th Red Sox pitcher since the adoption of a 162 game schedule 50+ years ago to allow 20 or more earned runs to the Yankees in a single season. Broken bat and an out to start the 5th. There've been a couple of big at bats, but this was the biggest. Gary Sanchez stepping in now with 1 away, had the big 2-run home run in the 3rd.
Yeah, I talked about adjustments, right? There's some pretty good pitch to start it off. He goes away and then gets back in the at bat with fastballs, and he's not really, he's tardy. He's tardy on all of them. And this adjustment right here, after the changeup and pitch away, he goes in and he says, you know what, pitchers, you adjust to me. I'm the man right now.
First pitch to Sanchez here. A fastball misses the corner.
And I'm telling you right now, you have to. If you're a pitcher, you got to adjust to this young man because he is absolutely taking it to pitchers in a short period of time since his call up.
A ball and a strike to count here to Gary Sanchez. He has made for some interesting discussion among voters for postseason honors. 15 home runs in 40 games.
That's unbelievable.
And you kind of tiptoed around this earlier. Is it a big enough body of work to make him a legitimate candidate? Or is he simply a guy that came up late and had a monster finish to his rookie campaign? I mean, there are other candidates for the American League Rookie of the Year, but between Michael Fulmer in Detroit, Tyler Naquin in Cleveland, why not Gary Sanchez? Willie McCovey is the player to have won a Rookie of the Year award in either league with the fewest number of games in that rookie season. Did it in only 52 games. And that's around where Gary Sanchez is going to finish.
It's a great comp, and I'm sure Mr. Sanchez would love to have the course that McCovey's career took him on.
There's a wave and a miss. 2 gone for Price in the 5th. I mean, where do you stand on that? Do you think that a 50-game sample is enough to make you a contender?
Normally, no. But what he's doing is so eye-popping. It's like you can't fathom that he could come up and affect a team and put him in a race by himself virtually, coming up with huge home run after home run. I say yes. I say he's got a chance to do something that not a lot of people have done.
2 gone now for Starlin Castro. Ken, I'll ask you, you're the only guy in this conversation that gets to vote on these matters. I mean, outside of Michael Fulmer, is he the biggest competition?
He is, and there's no question Sanchez is a candidate and a legitimate candidate, but he'd be a better candidate in a year without an obvious guy. And in my opinion, Michael Fulmer is an obvious guy. He came up at the end of April, kept the Tigers in the race really the whole year, was their best pitcher until Verlander got going. He would be my choice.
Yeah, Michael Fulmer probably will get a lot of consideration, if not most of it. We'll have a conversation a little later on today about the American League MVP race, which is getting a lot more interesting by the day. 2 balls and a strike to count to Starlin Castro.
But could you imagine the Yankees making the playoffs and the Tigers don't? It might change some people's votes, but I completely understand what Fulmer has done as a rookie pitcher is incredible.
Yeah, double-digit winner, ERA of just north of 3 in 24 starts. He's been great for them. .03 ERA, second lowest in the American League.
The most, I don't want to say controversial, but the place where somebody doesn't know where to put this guy, and that's Britton. I think he needs to be in the MVP voting as well, not necessarily the Cy Young.
Into left center field. Starlin Castro strikes for extra bases. A 2-out double here in the 5th. Castro's hurt. He is limping into second base. About halfway between first and second, he pulled up lame, and that will draw the attention of Joe Girardi and the Yankees training staff. Well, you heard the crowd react here when Castro started limping, a very pronounced limp. He's going to come out of the game, not even a discussion. We profiled Castro's importance to the Yankees when we signed on today, a guy that they just don't want to be without down the stretch. And when we get word on his status and what exactly is wrong, we'll be sure to pass it along to you.
It's a long season, and you wonder at this point, how could this happen? Guy's been playing all year, didn't look anything much, and then all of a sudden it got him. Grabbed him right there. He knew he had a double. So as he's rounding the base and taking his normal strides, right about there is all it took, and he knew that that was going to be it.
So Ronald Torreyes takes over at second base. He will likely stay out there defensively as well. So now Billy Butler with a chance to pick up a run. Butler has singled and struck out today.
I know Didi has great numbers against lefties, but this would be an at bat that I would be very cautious if I was David Price. And knowing that I could attack the left-hander on deck. And Didi with a base open. Butler, professional hitter, and brought in to face left-handed pitching.
Ball and no strikes, the count to Billy Butler. Strike on the corner as Price approaches 100 pitches. We saw Heath Hembree up in the bullpen earlier for Boston. And that's Starlin Castro going up the tunnel and into the visitors clubhouse here. Swing and a miss, and it's 1-2.
It's a good cutter in out of the hands of Butler. You see a lot of four seamers, and it looks like a fastball, and see how that late movement inside just ties up Billy Butler.
Ball and 2 strikes from Price to Butler. Couldn't tell if that was Butler or home plate umpire Bill Welke that wanted to pop out and take time. The pace will get to you. Price dictates the pace when he's out there. Again, over 25 seconds between pitches. One-two pitch is chopped to shortstop for Xander Bogaerts to retire the side. Nothing comes of the 2-out double. Still a 5-2 game. By T-Mobile, bringing you greater coverage of today's game. 5-2 Yankees heading to the bottom of the 5th, and a couple of changes for New York. Mark Teixeira takes over at first base, the better glove man, and Ronald Torreyes again does stay in the game in place of Starlin Castro, about whom we're waiting word from the Yankee clubhouse. So Jackie Bradley Jr. will lead things off here in the home fifth. Still plenty of baseball left, as they say, as the shadows start to creep in and become a little bit more ominous in front of home plate. Bradley Jr., Benintendi, and Pedroia against Brian Mitchell.
Mitchell's done a nice job pouring in some strikes, staying on the attack. Mixing it up. That's what you have to do. You have to mix it up against the Boston Red Sox. You cannot afford to pitch behind in the count. If you don't trust your secondary pitches, they are going to offensively have a field day.
Yeah, the only trouble was back in the third when he yielded the 2 runs, couple of doubles by Bogarts and Benintendi. 2 balls and 2 strikes to Jackie Bradley Jr.
Now without the threat of a bunt, you see where Headley has gone in the full-fledged shift.
Yeah, and a full count now, 3 balls and 2 strikes. Benintendi had the first of the 2 scoring doubles back in the third. He waits next. 3 balls and 2 strikes to Jackie Bradley Jr. You know, to reset the big picture here, the Red Sox have taken 9 out of 14 from the Yankees this year. And a win today would clinch Boston's first series win over their rivals since 2013. Boston with a 2-game lead in the East. New York 6 out of that race. Perhaps the better route for the Yankees, eyeing up that wild card. Started play 4 back there, but with a handful of teams to try to get past. And there's ball 4 to Bradley.
It's going to get the bullpen. They're already getting loose, but that's going to get them on alert.
First walk of the game. You know, we talked about some of the common threads among this current Red Sox roster. A lot of 6-foot and under guys. A lot of guys who at one point aspired to play second base, but Pedroia was in the way. And as much as Dustin Pedroia has prevented some players from getting to his position, it doesn't mean he hasn't welcomed them in other ways. Ken Rosenthal.
That's right, Matt. And Dustin Pedroia's wife Kelly recently returned to Arizona with their 3 sons, so he found some new housemates. One of them was Benintendi. The other was veteran infielder Aaron Hill, who came over in a trade. Now, Pedroia told me that he and Hill, the 2 veterans, often send the rookie, Mr. Benintendi, out for Starbucks to fetch their coffee. He insisted that Benintendi loves it, and I guess why wouldn't he? 18 months ago, Benintendi was at the University of Arkansas. Now he's living with Pedroia, who is a neighbor of Tom Brady's.
I'll get your coffee, right? Why not?
Whatever you do for twin beds, huh?
That one misses up and away, and it's 2-0 now. Here comes Larry Rothschild, the Yankees pitching coach. Luis Severino got up and started an assignment in the previous plate appearance, and I think the Yankees will buy him some additional time here.
Just a little bit of anxiousness, knowing you know, a pitcher in this situation knows he's just got to get through this inning, and it's pretty much going to be done. That'll be it. And sometimes just trying to get through an inning instead of pitching your way through an inning can be the difference between making a pitch or not. You got 2 strikes on Bradley, couldn't put him away. Starting out 2-0 here, and you start adding things in your mind you never would do normally. That's why it's dangerous when you think about, get through the 5th. Guess what happens if I get through the 5th? I qualify for a win. Can't think like that. Each hitter's got to be the most important mindset that you have, especially with this lineup in this park.
Popped him up on the left side of the infield. Headley is there to make the catch, and there's 1 away.
That trip just improved the percentage of which pitching coaches come out, and I'd say it's around 74% they throw a strike in this pitch. That's my own scientific method that I've been keeping track of.
It's just a good old-fashioned eyeball test.
Yeah, every time. So if you're at home, watch how many times a pitcher throws a strike after the pitching coach comes out.
Here's Pedroia now, who's had 2 really good plate appearances against Brian Mitchell this afternoon and has 2 lineouts to right to result. Bradley at first with 1 away. That one missed way inside. You talked earlier about a telltale sign of when Dustin Pedroia is swinging the bat well. That one's pulled out of the building, folks. First 2 at-bats going the other way.
Well, you see, he almost steps in the bucket. He has an unorthodox way that he can generate power and hit the ball the other way. And when you're locked in, you see the ball so much better. He's basically almost hit 400 since August 1st. That'll go down a little bit with his 0 for 2. There used to be a time where you could not throw a high pitch, especially in, to Dustin Pedroia.
And Pedroia pops it up. 2 gone. So now Xander Bogaerts. And Bogaerts would love to keep this inning alive to give David Ortiz a chance to bat with runners on.
And just the opposite for Mitchell. He knows what the scenario is. Get this guy out. He doesn't have to face David Ortiz with potential tying run at the plate.
Bogaerts has doubled and popped down in the infield today. Why do I find it so amusing when somebody pulls a foul ball out of the ballpark? It tickles me for some reason. Mike Napoli did it at Progressive Field earlier this week. The old example used to be Mike Laga did that as a Cardinal at Old Busch Stadium, which was really something because there was some foul territory there to deal with as well. Here it's easier to envision. Bogaerts to left. That one's got a chance, and that one is gone. The only question was whether it was going to stay fair. Two-run shot for Xander Bogaerts. That will mark the end of the afternoon for Brian Mitchell, as the Red Sox have once again tightened this up to a 1-run game. A pitching change. Fenway Park is alive, and we'll be right back. 4 2/3, in which he allowed the 4 earned runs on 5 hits. They came in 2 big bunches, back-to-back, where the 2 doubles rather in the 3rd, and then the 2-run home run by Bogaerts in the 5th.
That's just unbelievable. That is quick hands and a really bad missed spot. Wow.
So Luis Severino called on here in the 5th to try to bridge these important middle innings. Severino has been great since going into his new role as a middle reliever. 8 relief appearances, 2-0. He is not allowed to run in that role after a really rocky start as a starting pitcher this year. 3 balls and no strikes, the count to David Ortiz with Mookie Betts waiting on deck.
That's an amazing split we just saw right there. 0-8 versus 2-0 and no earned runs.
And he loses Ortiz on a 4-pitch walk to start the assignment. You know, there's something about the Yankee bullpen against the Red Sox at Fenway specifically that has just not gone well for New York. In 8 games at Fenway Park this year, the Yankees bullpen has allowed 24 runs in just over 26 innings. And that includes not faring very well in this series. Betts on the first pitch sends a ball out to center field, handled by Ellsbury to retire the side. Nothing further, but the 2-run home run by Xander Bogaerts has made it a 1-run ball game. The 20th of the year for Boston's all-star shortstop. It's 5-4 New York. And by Arm & Hammer and OxyClean, official partners of Major League Baseball. Back with Ken Rosenthal, Hall of Famer John Smoltz, Matt Vasgersian, and a 5-4 Yankee lead as we enter the 6th inning. Xander Bogaerts with his 20th home run of the year, giving the Red Sox their 5th player with at least 20 this year. And that's the first time that has happened in over a decade here in Boston. Didi Gregorius, Chase Headley, and Austin Romine against David Price in the 6th.
David Price still in there despite the amount of pitches he has. Still got a good live fastball. He's sticking around to know his boys will get him 6. Or at least that's what he feels.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've gotten him an average of 11 the past 7 starts. That one shot past Ramirez, and the leadoff hitter's aboard to start the New York 6th.
Now this ball was hit awfully firm, and Ramirez could not gauge the one hop. Didi's success against left-handers still amazes me, especially this left-hander.
So a couple of singles for Gregorius today, and here is the switch hitter Chase Headley now in from the right side. Headley has singled and scored today. He's hit safely in 16 of his last 20. Looking at the list of names, John, the last time the Red Sox had 5 players enjoy 20+ home run seasons, and it was back in 2003 when 6 guys hit at least 20. Nomar Garciaparra, Kevin Millar, Trot Nixon, David Ortiz, Manny Ramirez, and Jason Varitek. Can you believe it's been 13 years since that season? That was David Ortiz's first year here, by the way. And can you believe that David Ortiz is having the year he's having here in 2016 after hearing his name in that group long since retired from the game?
Yeah, it is pretty amazing. I don't know of another athlete in his final year
Betts is under the fly ball to right. There's one away.
in his final year with an opportunity or a dream scenario that David Ortiz has, and that's finishing on top statistically and possibly getting a chance to go to the postseason, which would be the ultimate dream, and go to the World Series.
Here's Austin Romine now with 1 out and 1 on. Yeah, it has not been the usual kind of soft landing for an aging superstar in the case of David Ortiz. Austin Romine's had a big day, a single and a big 2-run double. Right, the landscape is littered with tales of great players who are not quite themselves by the time they shut it down. Willie Mays ended his career in a whimper as a Met. Even in this franchise history, Carl Yastrzemski wasn't the late 60s, mid 70s he has by the time he shut it down.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I think back to Kobe's last game. You can have like that one moment. It's hard to have a whole season.
Yeah.
Where you're just locked in.
Not to mention in that game when it's Kobe Bryant's last game and he's fed the ball every time down the floor, he's going to score some points.
Yeah.
It's hard to do that in this game.
One thing you can't take away from David Ortiz is his ability to be super clutch. Postseason success, really unmatched. He is one of our true superstars that embraces the whole balance of what comes with playing the game at a high level and everybody seeing you for the man. He's been that.
Not to mention, you know you're big when they're cutting you into corn mazes. You look at it from a helicopter, as David Ortiz did. Thanks, Poppy is what it spells out, with a likeness of David Ortiz. Stare at it for a while. You can make it out. It's there.
Right corner, top right corner.
And then when they make a Lego statue of you,
that's incredible.
It's here at the ballpark, and it is legit. John and I inspected it earlier today.
We took a few of those. Were we not supposed to take a few of those?
I chipped away a piece of his left forearm. And a called strike 3 taken by Romine. Two out in the 6th.
Fastball away. It's a good pitch.
6th strikeout for David Ortiz.
Can't quite see it. We took a couple under the armpit out, and
it's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, no offense to anybody else that's ever played here, but they're not making Lego statues for Bob Zupsik. There's a strike to Rob Refsnyder. Refsnyder 0 for 2 with a pair of strikeouts today. 2 of the 6 for David Price have been on his line. Oh, and 2. Heath Hembree had been up a couple of times in the Boston bullpen. The bullpen is active as we speak. They've got a left-hander up down there. That's Robbie Ross, one of the many available relief choices on both sides here in September. No fewer than 4 left-handers in the Boston bullpen. Same set of the Yankees. Gregorius at first. He's been there ever since singling to start the inning. Headley flew out, and then Romine a strikeout victim, and here's the 2-strike pitch to Refsnyder. A ball and 2 strikes now. We mentioned that most of the other action is later tonight in Major League Baseball. There are 2 other games happening now. Atlanta leading Washington 6-2 in the 6th. The Pirates have an 8-3 lead in Cincinnati in the 6th inning. A doubleheader being played in that last game we mentioned. And again, the AL East all happening later on tonight. 2-2.
David Price has just basically overpowered Refsnyder with fastballs. Talking to himself, trying to get this last batter because this will be his last inning.
Brett Gardner waits on deck. Runner at first with 2 gone and a 1-run ball game. A called strike 3. If in fact that's the final pitch of the day for David Price, a couple of strikeouts end his afternoon. In Blaine Crawford in Lethal Weapon premieres Wednesday on Fox. Still a one-run ball game as Luis Severino takes over to work the bottom half of the inning. You'll get Hanley Ramirez, Travis Shaw, and Sandy Leon. Actually, Severino came out there and closed out the fifth. And there's a gapper off the bat of Hanley Ramirez that'll put the tying run in scoring position to start the home sixth.
Hanley is some kind of locked in.
Change out in right field is set this inning as Mason Williams, a rookie outfielder, takes over for Rob Refsnyder.
Puts that foot down and the barrel of the bat. Only thing he didn't do was have loft to it, which would have been another home run, but he splits the gap. Easy double. Now the next guys do their job. They move him over and don't have to score him without necessarily getting hit.
Travis Shaw 0 for 2 against the starter Brian Mitchell today. So Severino came on and walked Ortiz on 4 pitches in the 5th and then gave up a loud long fly ball to Mookie Betts to end the inning. A booming double greets him in the 6th. And Shaw pops it up. Gardner makes the catch in left, and there's one away.
That's definitely not doing his job right there. They played the shift on him, and all he had to do was hit into the shift, and this time he pulls off the ball. You know he's upset. Fly ball to left field is not going to get it done.
So now Sandy Leon, who's also looking for his first hit today. We did mention how much better Luis Severino has fared in the bullpen, having not allowed a run in relief. He's really gotten tight with runners in scoring position as a reliever. 1 for 17 is the opponent's line in that scenario against Severino, the reliever. Ball and no strikes, the count to Sandy Leon. To third. Headley gathers it in. Not a bad idea. It advanced the runner to third. There are, however, 2 away here.
Well, he just bunted it too hard. With the runner at second, Headley had to be kind of in, even though the shift is in place. See how he's in a little bit? So if he deadens it at all, it's a tougher play, and he just gets a little bit too much on it. Of course, an easy play for Headley. Had the previous batter done that, that would have had a better purpose with a runner on third, less than 2 outs.
So no sacrifice is credited to Sandy Leon there. He was bunting for a hit. Here's Jackie Bradley Jr. now. He has singled, or rather struck out and walked today. Red Sox trying not to strand that leadoff double. One and one.
Have a shift on Bradley as well. Now this kind of bunt out of Bradley would be a much more difficult play, and with Headley being shifted over towards the hole, shortstop.
Two balls and a strike to count to Bradley. The left-handed hitting Andrew Benintendi waiting next. So a tough bottom of the order assignment for Severino here if he is to remain scoreless as a reliever. Three balls and a strike.
You're seeing that the shadows have disappeared because the cloud has taken care of that. So the hitter's view towards the mound is not anything but what he sees at this current moment.
As good as the Red Sox have been with runners in scoring position this year, 290 as a team, that's the best in baseball. They've struggled today. And it's a full count to Bradley now. Just 1 for 8 with runners in scoring position on this afternoon. Jackie thought he had ball 4 there. The payoff pitch home.
Got away with one there. Slider did not go intended where it was. Bradley fought it off. What you're trying to do with that slider is try to get a back foot slider. Start it over the middle of the plate and let it go down. It'd be hard for Jackie Bradley to stay off of that pitch. Fastball in now.
Holds up on a fastball up. Ball 4 puts runners at the corners with 2 away. MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service, delivers everything you've come to expect and more. Watch every out-of-market game live in HD on over 400 supported devices. Visit MLB.TV for details.
Shadows back.
Andrew Benintendi now.
About halfway between the pitcher's mound and the hitter.
Benintendi has doubled, scored, and popped out today. 0-1 the count to the Red Sox left fielder.
I just had a vision of being on the mound, looking up in the sky, going, I'm going to wait about 20 seconds. I see this. See the cloud moving, waiting for a cloud to create shadow. Make it more difficult.
You tried to time clouds.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's not many in the sky today. There's only a couple of them. So
you really took it to the next level. I'm starting to learn.
You got to. You got to take advantage of as many advantages as you can.
2 balls and a strike. In a very small sample size, Benintendi's had some success against Luis Severino. 2 for 2 with an RBI double. Runners at the corners with 2 gone in a 1-run game. Big swing and a miss. 2-2. Challenged him at 99 that time.
He's got some weapons. Does Severino.
Didn't need any help from cloud cover on that. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Full count now. Not sure how Andrew got out of the way of that pitch. Fans are re-engaged now with the tying run at third.
About a 3-2 slider right here.
Oh, just missed with it.
He went with the 3-2 slider. Just called it up. Bell tie. Yeah. Bell tie.
So now Larry Rothschild, the Yankees pitching coach, is out, and that stirs a few people down in the Yankee bullpen. Nobody had been up this inning behind Severino. He has been their most reliable middle innings weapon since being reinvented as a reliever. But now he's in trouble. Runners all around. Bases are loaded. Ramirez, Bradley, and Benintendi all aboard for Dustin Pedroia. Well, the 2008 AL MVP has 3 career grand slams to his credit, including this one, the most recent in April. One that just scooted inside the pesky pole against Bud Norris. Slider starts him with a strike here.
Pedroia, he basically gives the pitcher the first pitch, and then he goes to work. Almost steps out as if to say, I'm taking it all the way. He's done it each at bat so far today.
1-1. How about this for a Boston batting oddity? With runners in scoring position and 2 out, they're the best in baseball. With the bases loaded, they are 3rd from the bottom, just a .215 bases loaded team average. Look out. That's 98 up and in. 2 balls and a strike.
As I said, Pedroia, he likes to go in towards the plate with his body and that fastball up and in. Got to trust right here, and the conversation on the mound's got to be, this is the most important pitch in the at bat, and it's 2-1 count. If you can trust your slider, you throw your slider right here. Fastball is starting to miss up with it.
2-1. Who had Pedroia buckling and missed inside. It's 3 balls and a strike now. Some atypical control trouble out of Luis Severino. And it's 3 balls and a strike now to Dustin Pedroia.
He's getting around his slider. We've seen the velocity of his fastball, but the slider's got a little more lateral, almost throwing it uphill a little bit. See how it breaks and is not breaking down? It's covering the plate, but he's getting on the side of it, which is not the right tilt for that kind of pitch.
And it's a full count now. 3 balls and 2 strikes. Pedroia began the day having hit safely in 21 of his last 22 home games. Better than 400 in the month of September. He's been conspicuously quiet today in terms of results. 0 for 3, though he has hit the ball hard twice. The payoff pitch. He'll do it again.
Fans know when they come here, watch a Red Sox Yankees game, you are going to get your money's worth.
There's no doubt. Xander Bogaerts on deck, his 2-run home run back in the 5th, made it the 1-run game that we're watching now. Here's the next 3-2 home.
Oh, what a pitch.
Called strike 3. A 100-mile-an-hour fastball right on the outside corner. Pedroia takes exception, but he's going to have to take his glove next. Luis Severino in and out of a jam in the 6th to preserve the Yankees' 1-run lead. Contributing into a bases loaded jam, but then struck out Dustin Pedroia on a 3-2 fastball at 100 miles an hour and keeps the Yankees 1-run lead in check. So to the top of the 7th, and a new pitcher for Boston, left-hander Robbie Ross takes over for David Price.
Throws a little bit across his body. Fastball slider.
As you'd expect, tough on left-handed hitters like Gardner and Ellsbury, who lead things off in the 7th inning. Gardner, Ellsbury, and Sanchez here for the Yankees. Robbie Ross with an opponent's average of 178 against left-handed batters. That's a top 5 figure in the American League. And behind here, 3-0.
Well, for the Red Sox, they won't be afraid to use as many pitchers as it takes to get this job done.
And I think the design here would be Ross for Gardner and Ellsbury, and then back to the bullpen for Gary Sanchez.
Recently, the Red Sox and the Blue Jays played a 9-inning game and had 18 pitchers used in that game.
Leadoff walk, and Gardner's aboard. Hey, grip the moment, sponsored by Falcon Tires, the official tire of Major League Baseball. Walking you through the entire sequence to Dustin Pedroia that got it to 3-2. A couple of 3-2 foul balls, and then the pitch that locked up Petey.
He's going to look at that one and see that that was a better pitch than he first thought when he saw it live.
So now Jacoby Ellsbury, leadoff hitter aboard, and Ellsbury takes a strike on the inside corner. 0 for 3 today in his return to Fenway. The raspberries that he got from the crowd have gotten a little quieter the longer Jacoby has been quiet at the plate.
As we mentioned, though, you can almost sense the Yankees know they got to have this game. They got to find a way to hold off the Red Sox and create as much opportunity for them with the schedule remaining to fight for their playoff lives. If they don't win today's game, you can almost say mathematically the division's gone, and then too many teams and too many games back for the wild card. But if they could somehow win this game and gain a split, they're right back where they started.
Yep.
And giving them a little bit more hope moving forward.
Well, in losing 5 of their last 6, it's been the bullpen and the lineup that's kind of gone quiet. They've hit just 163 with runners in scoring position during that span, and they're averaging around 3 runs a game over that period. Ball and 2 strikes, the count to Jacoby Ellsbury. Again, the rest of the AL East later on tonight. Toronto is out in Anaheim. They've got Francisco Liriano today. That's line to Shaw. They'll try to double up Gardner, but it's not in time. So now Gary Sanchez, and as we guessed, here's John Farrell. He wants a right-hander for the home run threat. We'll have a pitching change with 1 out and 1 on in a 1-run game here at Fenway. why Gary Sanchez is good, and the home runs and the start he's gotten off to is all you really need. But how about this? When they're trying to walk you and you still beat him with a sac fly, as he did earlier this month against the Rays.
That's amazing to be ready. I guess he wasn't ready one other time that this happened to him, so he said he was going to be ready from that point on and drove in a run with it.
Sanchez will bat here with 1 out and 1 on. Do so against the new pitcher. Right-hander Matt Barnes takes over on the mound for Boston.
Matt Barnes drops his arm a little bit in delivery. Got kind of a funky little delivery, but his fastball 94 miles an hour. And the curveball 81 with really good break, but it's not as consistent.
Bear in mind that it's not Starlin Castro due up next. He was removed after pulling up lame, legging out a double, but Ronald Torreyes batting on deck. Ball and no strikes to count to Gary Sanchez. Here's another reason you know that Gary Sanchez is good. I mean, we've seen it on the field. He's wearing number 24, and it would seem that they don't give number 24 as a Yankee out to just, any September call up. Some pretty good players that have had that number on their back in Yankee history. You need to go back only as far as some of the recent number 24s. Robinson Cano and Tino Martinez. Ricky wore it. Al Downing on the pitching side. Two balls and a strike to count to Gary Sanchez. I think you could do that with the Yankees, though, with any number, right? I mean, short of something in the 70s and 80s, there's going to be a great player to have worn most numbers that would be available. And when you consider there's no single digit numbers that are left that aren't retired. There goes Gardner. Leon's throw down takes a bounce, but lands right in front of the bag, and he's out at second base.
That's the only way Gardner gets thrown out, is an absolute perfect throw. The catcher has to stay back when the hitter swings through the pitch. There's the break, and at this point you think he's going to be safe, but watch exactly where the ball, and Pedroia slaps the tag right on the hand.
Two balls and two strikes to Gary Sanchez with 2 out and the base is empty. Sandy Leon started play having thrown out 38% of would-be thieves, and his caught stealing is followed by strike 3 to Sanchez. Nothing doing in the top of the 7th. They're stretching at Fenway in a 1-run game. By the Lincoln Motor Company and the exhilarating new Lincoln MKZ. Back with Hall of Famer John Smoltz and Ken Rosenthal. Matt Vasgersian in Boston, and a one-run ball game. Last of the seventh. Xander Bogaerts, David Ortiz, and Mookie Betts against Luis Severino, who pitched his way in and out of a bases-loaded jam in the sixth. Bogaerts has been kind of a one-man wrecking crew today. A double, a home run, 2 runs driven in, a couple of runs scored.
Severino needs to approach it like it's 2-0 or 3-1, because when it was 3-1, he made 3 of the best pitches he was going to make against Dustin Pedroia to get out of that jam. Early on, just falling behind. The command of his fastball has not been as sharp.
A strike to make it 2 balls and a strike now. Two balls and 2 strikes to Bogaerts.
After seeing the last home run that Bogaerts hit, I would stay away from anything towards the catcher's glove. He took a pitch inner half and pulled his hand so quick. You've got to get the ball away, and he got away with a mistake there. A slider that backed up, it looked like, in the middle part of the plate. Let's see if Sanchez can, or Romine can get him over there on a 2-2 count.
Into right center field, well hit. Ellsbury giving chase, running out of room, dives, it's off the wall. Another extra base hit for Xander Bogaerts this afternoon.
Once again, Ellsbury went into that wall very awkwardly. They did not get this pitch where they intended. Pitch is supposed to be away. Watch it leak out over the middle of the plate, and he just gets more barrel of the bat than you would imagine by his reaction. Ellsbury in that corner trying to figure out what he could do. Slides and catches his knee, almost pinches it. Another leadoff double.
Second straight inning that the Red Sox have led off with a 2-base hit. The 3rd time they've done it overall today.
So here's the last time that Bogaerts was up. Watch where they were expecting it. This ball was going to almost hit the umpire if he doesn't swing. And then this one right here, he doesn't pull, but he hits enough of it where he can stay inside the baseball. Even what looked like a almost pop-up swing went about 410 feet.
Quite a lengthy discussion happening out there with Ellsbury. We'll take a look at him kind of sliding into the wall again. It looked like it was the left knee that caught the corner of the wall. Yeah, but they're looking at his right knee. Both knees went in there hard. He's going to stick around. Good news temporarily, at least. Hopefully he can finish out the afternoon. So here's David Ortiz now representing the go-ahead run. Tying run in scoring position. And then Joe Girardi, after the visit in center field, is going to come out and double switch.
Probably one of the longest jogs Girardi's ever made.
He went from
Girardi's ever made to go to make a pitching change.
Dugout to center field, back to the dugout, only to go to the mound. We'll be right back. Some of his best work this year as moral support, and no one was more, look at the windmills. No one was more excited than David Ortiz after Hanley Ramirez walked off the Yankees on Thursday. Yeah, watch it, clear space, untuck, and celebrate. I don't know if we can do sabermetrics or StatCast on Big Papi's cheerleading ability, but it is off the charts. He bats here with the tying run in scoring position and nobody out, and he'll do so against a former teammate. Left-hander Tommy Lane takes over here in the 7th. Ortiz squares around and takes a ball.
Did you hear the crowd? He squared around. They almost like, oh.
Lane making his 22nd appearance of the year out of the Yankee bullpen. And Ortiz sends a drive to center field. Not a real test for Ellsbury's knee that he banged up previously, but that fly ball does get Bogarts to third. Tying run in scoring position at third base now. Here comes Joe Girardi, and with Mookie Betts scheduled, he's going to make another change. Another pitching change, and we'll be right back. On Fox, don't miss Sporting Kansas City take on the LA Galaxy at 2 Eastern, or catch Toronto FC battle New York Red Bulls at 5 Eastern. Check local listings for the game in your area. So pitching changes for back-to-back hitters, and Adam Warren will become the third pitcher to work this inning on the mound for New York.
More to come, but right now, pressing issues with a runner on third again. Seems like the last 3 innings have been high stress for the Yankees relievers. And Adam Warren returning back. He's got electric stuff. The ball sneaks up on the hitter. Really good complementary secondary stuff where he can get you out a variety of ways. Right now he's hoping it's on the ground via the strikeout, or on the ground because the infield's playing in.
Mookie Betts is 1 for 3 today, but the line that really catches your attention is his 5 for 9 with 3 extra base hits against Adam Warren. Yankee infield is in. Tying run at third with 1 away, and it's a ball and no strikes to the MVP candidate Mookie Betts.
And this was why this is so difficult against the pressure that the Red Sox offense puts on a team. It's relentless. Doesn't matter who's up next.
Hanley Ramirez in this case, and it's 1-1 now. For Adam Warren, traded this past December from the Yankees to the Cubs and then traded back just after the All-Star game. A chopper that will clear Gregorius and tie it at 5. Well, with the infield in, Didi Gregorius had no chance to make that play. And it's Mookie Betts' second hit of the afternoon that brings the Red Sox back to even.
Firm at home plate. He chops it down. And a great break at third. I don't think it would have mattered even if Didi were able to come down with this ball.
That run charged to Luis Severino, which means it's the first he's allowed as a reliever this year. Here's Hanley Ramirez now. He has singled and doubled today. Has homered in each of the first 2 games of the series.
He just looks like right now at the plate he's not missing any fastball anywhere close to a strike. I never liked facing guys that were hot and picked up their front leg. Kind of like Gary Sheffield wiggled that bat and always looked like, oh, fastball's coming. He just never feels like they're going to miss it. Obviously they do, but when they're hot, they're more locked in.
Nothing in 1 the count to Hanley Ramirez. Betts is a threat to run. Stolen 24 and only been thrown out 3 times this year. When you look down Mookie Betts' body of work this year, it is absolutely an MVP worthy discussion. You know what's interesting about the American League MVP candidates, and you could have the same kind of discussion about the AL Cy Young race, is that where there are candidates, one guy hasn't jumped off the page in these last month to 6 weeks to wrap it up. If anything, the top candidates have gone cold. Josh Donaldson hurt his hip. Jose Altuve has had a really bad stretch here the last month or so. And Betts, for all of his great numbers, entered the weekend batting .228 in September. A ball and a strike to count to Hanley Ramirez. A smash that gets into left field. And here comes Boston looking for more.
He's just not missing. When he gets one he likes, he's not missing. Throws the leg up, ready to hit, and that cutter didn't do what it was supposed to. Hands are back, and then he fires. Absolute second half dream power number wise, and now average getting picked up just to add to the averages that they already have in their lineup.
So here's Travis Shaw now, who has batted seemingly all afternoon with runners on base. 0 for 3. He has stranded 3 today and has runners at first and second with 1 out and 1 in here in the 7th. A strike from Warren.
Warren possesses that curveball you saw right there. Slider, cutter, fastball. Going to need them all to wiggle out of this jam here.
What did we say earlier about David Price and the runs that have come his way on his 5th day?
Yep.
Shaw beats it to first. Teixeira knocks it down, gets it to Warren. Runners at second and third now with 2 gone. So Sandy Leon, who like Shaw, has been held hitless so far this afternoon. He had hit in the first 2 games of the series. Runners at second and third for him. Switch hitting catcher again in from the left side. A 5-5 tie here in the last of the 7th. 9 hits apiece. Yankee starter Brian Mitchell went 4 2/3. David Price for the Red Sox went 6.
Amazing how 2 teams can play similar games every single time they play each other.
Right.
Like every time.
Grinders.
Yeah.
For so many years, the series was kind of defined, inside the numbers by both teams' ability to drag out plate appearances. The Red Sox and Yankees annually during their heydays of the rivalry were always among major league team leaders in pitches per plate appearance. That one bounces away from Romine. That scores the go-ahead run. Here's Hanley to try to score, where he is met stone cold by Romine, holding the baseball. The Yankees give up the lead, but prevent any further damage in the way of an insurance run. We'll revisit that unusual end of the inning in a moment. Will end to a 2-run bottom of the 7th, and that's the Red Sox, their first lead of the ball game. And we'll go through it and explain, try to explain at least what happened after we get this top half of the 8th underway. Ronald Torreyes takes over, or rather leads off for the Yankees. It'll be Torreyes, followed by Teixeira, and then Didi Gregorius. A run scores on a wild pitch after the Red Sox had tied it at 5. And then Hanley Ramirez trying to pad the lead and sneak a second run on the same wild pitch play is met squarely by Austin Romine, who was holding the ball the whole time. First plate appearance for Ronald Torreyes. He took over for Starlin Castro after Castro doubled and then was removed with a strained right hamstring in the 5th inning. Matt Barnes finished out the 7th. Two balls and 2 strikes to open the 8th.
Well, when we get a chance to show you, you'll see why Hanley thought the way he did and read it correctly at the time. But with the help of the Yankees dugout, Joe Girardi screaming to his catcher, you'll see why it was closer than what Hanley thought was going to be.
Well, then I've got a question for you when we look at this again, because I'm curious to see it again as well. Still 2 balls and 2 strikes to Ronald Torreyes. Ground ball to third. Shaw knocks it down, recovers, and gets it to first in time. So let's take you back to the wild pitch as Mookie Betts comes around to score on this to tie, or rather give the Red Sox the 6-5 lead. And then watch Hanley Ramirez.
So when you see this play, you know the runner's going to score, so the catcher's frustrated. Now see how he's turned his back? He's turned his back, and Hanley sees that. And at this point, if he'd have kept going, might have had a chance. He hesitates right there and then says, I got this, I got this. Joe starts yelling, and at this point, the catcher goes down as almost as if he was deking him. But see, when he turned his back right there, he didn't know what was going on. And as he heard him yell, that gave him enough time to get the runner coming to home plate. So if he doesn't hesitate for that second, Romine, in his disgust, kind of turned his back. That's what I think Hanley saw and probably thought he had a chance.
And Romine was not that far away from the plate, but you're right. Having his back to the play is what gave Hanley a little hope. My question for you is, how is he not blocking the plate there?
Now that's what I thought they might be looking at in the dugout for the Red Sox. But as he came in and they were sliding simultaneously, he just put the glove in front of his foot. Had he put his shin or leg in front, that would have been a different scenario.
A ball and a strike to Mark Teixeira, making his first plate appearance in this one. A bouncer to the right side of the infield. That's Travis Shaw, who was playing at the second base position in the shift. Well, here it is in real time. Ball gets away from Romine. Betts scores. Romine is upset, loses track of the second runner, and recovers just in time. He did put his shin guard down.
He did. I mean, it was real close. Real close.
Here's Didi Gregorius now with 2 gone. We had a bird's eye view of the proceedings and then watched it again a couple of times on replay. Ken Rosenthal, you're down there on the field. What did it look like from where you stand?
Well, it is a fair question about the block, but I'm wondering, one, the impact of Romine having the ball, and 2, whether Hanley indeed had a lane to shoot for. That's always the standard, and I'm sure the ruling was that exactly, that he had the lane, and that's why they didn't call it a block.
There were, and as that third out was recorded, I mean, we had a shot of the Red Sox dugout. They were all kind of wondering the same thing. A, what happened? B, was there a was there a chance that the plate was blocked? 2 balls and no strikes to Didi Gregorius.
See, if a throw takes you into the runner, then it's not deemed blocking the plate. But since he went straight forward to the plate to block it, you could make a tiny argument there that have him review it, and that would have been a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, despite the best efforts by Major League Baseball, there is still a little bit of gray there. We're not talking about the kind of gray that permeates what constitutes a catch in the NFL.
Right.
That's really gray. But there are some little. I've never seen that rule in effect for a play like that, where the catcher is literally trying to race to the plate with the ball and they meet at the same time.
And technically, he could have kept running straight through. He didn't have to slide in that scenario.
Hanley.
Which would have been an even more interesting play.
If by interesting you mean injury filled, then I mean, those are 2 big guys. It would have collided. It's a full count to Didi Gregorius. 3 balls and 2 strikes. The Yankees batting while trailing for the first time, and down to their final 4 outs this afternoon. One of the phases of John Farrell's game that he's been most pleased with over the last 6 or so weeks, really since Craig Kimbrell was reactivated, is his A group in the back of the bullpen. It's a group that stumbled around the midseason mark in the absence of Kimbrell, as John talked about earlier. And there's ball 4.
Well, with the starters in the second half pitching more innings and pitching much more effectively, I don't think there's many weak spots really for the Red Sox. They're about as complete of a team in the American League as you can get. They're going to ask Kimbrell to get a 4-out save here.
Another pitching change with 2 out and a runner on. We'll be right back. @BAT app. Stay up to the moment at any moment with game day, live game video highlights, StatCast, news, and more. Download MLB.com @BAT, the #1 app for live baseball on your phone and tablet. Today's Budweiser game summary. Boy, lots happened here to try to recap in a little 15-second nutshell. Gary Sanchez hit a 2-run home run in the 3rd when things were going really well for the visiting Yankees. The bad news started with Starlin Castro being removed in the 5th with what they're calling a right hamstring strain. And then in terms of the game results, a run to tie and then a run to go ahead in the Red Sox half of the 7th has given Boston a chance to give Craig Kimbrel a 4-out save opportunity starting here in the 8th.
Well, Kimbrel, you see the numbers. Probably his only blemish is when he doesn't pitch in save situations. Coming back from knee surgery. Tremendous strikeout rate as a closer. Fastball, power, curveball.
Kimbrel entered in the 9th last night. And with 1 out and a runner at first, struck out Jacoby Ellsbury and Gary Sanchez to seal off the win in his 26th save of the year. 0-1 the count to Chase Headley. Quickly 0-2.
There's that power curveball. His fastball's electric, but sometimes his fastball command gets him in trouble. This ball just disappears.
Kimbrel's only other 4-out save opportunity this year was at the end of May against the Blue Jays. And he was charged with a blown save. Gave up 2 runs on 3 hits in an inning and a third. In fairness, that is in what seemed like a different season for Craig Kimbrel. Before the knee surgery and when he struggled in April and May. Ball and 2 strikes to Headley. A runner aboard with 2 gone in a 1-run game. Swing and a miss. Flicker of a flame extinguished in the 8th. To the bottom of the inning, 6-5 Boston. Sponsored by T-Mobile, bringing you greater coverage of today's game, and by Domino's. Order online and track your order. A 6-5 Red Sox lead going to the bottom of the 8th inning, and some defensive changes to track for you. Tyler Austin takes over in left field. That moves Brett Gardner to center, and Jacoby Ellsbury will be unable to continue. We're assuming it has everything to do with knocking himself into that center field wall earlier today. Stayed out there for a while, but gives way here late. Sandy Leon was at the plate after the unusual end to the 7th, and that brings him back up here to start the 8th. Leone, Bradley, and Benintendi. Red Sox take the first 2 games of this 4-game series. Not unlike Thursday's opener, the Yankees had an early lead today.
There's your shift with 2 strikes. Third baseman playing over in the second base side.
And a swing and a miss to finish off Sandy Leone. We talked about the Yankees chasing down an American League wildcard berth. The National League wildcard race is just as close, just as interesting. Not as many suitors involved. San Francisco and the Mets have the 2 chairs as we speak. St. Louis is 2 games out of that second spot. But Ken Rosenthal has some news certainly that could affect that wildcard race.
Some really disturbing news from the Mets. Jacob deGrom shut down for the year. He's going to have ulnar nerve surgery. He told reporters recovery will be 3 months.
Jackie Bradley Jr. with a base hit, meanwhile, into right field.
Now, deGrom had thrown a bullpen session yesterday, but after that he felt it. And obviously for the Mets, they've been hoping he comes back. They make the playoffs. They've got Syndergaard and deGrom and Cologne. They're okay. They're still waiting to see if Matz can pitch again this year, but the chances of that probably aren't great either. We'll see.
Well, that's a potentially huge loss in New York, though I'm not quite sure what was being counted on privately from deGrom down the stretch. Strike 1 to Benintendi. It's not the group that Terry Collins thought he'd have leading the way into a possible title defense in the National League.
No, but he's done a great job just keeping him in that mix. We knew going in the National League would have less suitors for the wild card because it was kind of the haves and have-nots. And you like the Mets' position if they could stay healthy. They still may very well get there. Well, that surgery does have a nice likelihood of returning back to form. I had the same surgery or similar surgery where they went in to clean out my nerve and then move it, and was able to return without any really hiccups at all. So not the news you want to hear from Mets fans.
No.
With all the issues they've had, especially after last year with the great run and pushing everyone beyond their limits to get to the World Series. And it is showing itself in this season.
So instead of after Syndergaard, instead of Harvey and Matz and deGrom, it's Robert Gesellman, Seth Lugo, Rafael Montero. You know, no offense, but these are not the guys that went down to the post last year. The good news is for Mets fans, they've got one of the 2 wild cards right now. They're trying to stave off the Cardinals, chief among others, to get back to the postseason. Ball and 2 strikes to Andrew Benintendi, who's doubled and walked today.
Well, both the Mets and the Yankees, really. I mean, especially the Yankees, have what they've been able to do. I know it looks like they're running out of gas a little bit. Unless they can rally in the 9th inning, their playoff chances have really dwindled in this series because there were such high hopes. And that first game was such an emotional twist. They win the game, they're 1 game back in the wild card. They were unable to win that game and unable to win yesterday. Has put them in this position. You could just see the whole game. Every time they got a lead, the Red Sox just seemed like they had more weapons ready and able to deliver than do the Yankees.
Benintendi with a high drive to right. Williams back at the wall and makes the catch for out number 2. Let's take a look at this afternoon's Hartford prevailing moment of the game. And getting back to the unusual play that gave up the tie and then the lead. It was a wild pitch after the Red Sox had tied the game at 5. Mookie Betts scoring. A second run nearly scored. But then Austin Romine realized the situation and was able to beat Hanley Ramirez to the plate in a play we thought came close to, or at least was worth discussing in terms of catcher's lanes and blocking the plate. And Kenny, you've got a little clarification for us.
I do, Matt, and it's pretty simple. If the catcher has the ball, he can block the plate. Romine was in possession, no problem.
That's why I was saying that he could have ran him over. That's where the confusion is. You know, guys are like, oh, you can't run over the catcher anymore. If he's got the ball and he can block the plate, you can run him over.
I'm glad for both of those guys that it didn't come down to that. Two big dudes. Dustin Pedroia now with the runner aboard and 2 gone. 6 runs on 10 hits for Boston, 5 runs on 9 hits for the Yankees. The Yankees at one point today had a 3-0 lead over David Price.
Well, the other aspect we really don't talk about when you think about the Red Sox, or at least everything that steps out, is their power, their offense, their average, but they can beat you with their legs. That's what gives them flexibility. They can steal bases, they can run bases, with the exception of a couple guys in their lineup. They can run a little bit. Another weapon.
Two balls and a strike. New York will have their 8, 9, and top of the order hitters in the top of the 9th inning against Craig Kimbrell to try to salvage a game, end a 3-game slide, and turn around the momentum that has changed on them here this weekend. Chopper to the left side of the infield. Headley gathers it in and gets Pedroia at first. So we go to the 9th. Red Sox on top by a run. Three outs away from clinching a season series against the Yankees. More importantly, down the stretch here, making it 3 in a row and doing nothing to concede any ground atop the AL East. New York, on the other hand, looking for a little late magic to stem this losing tide of the weekend. Austin Romine leads things off for the Yankees. Romine, Williams, and Gardner, 8, 9, then 1 here in the top of the 9th. Yankees haven't lost 4 straight since late July. First real swoon here with this new young cast of characters, and it's a ball and a strike now to Austin Romine.
Sometimes the curveball for Kimbrel is so good that the hitter takes it as if he saw it and he was completely fooled and ends up being a good take. That's how good his stuff can be.
2 balls and a strike. Well, Kimbrel's allowed just 1 run in his last 12 appearances, and holding opponents to a batting average of 104 over that period. Two and two.
I mean, when he has that pitch, he's unbeatable. I mean, that's why he's been so good. The fastball at 96 miles an hour, an unorthodox way that he throws it, it just explodes on the hitter.
Missed the corner. 3 balls and 2 strikes.
Sometimes fool the umpire too. Sandy did a nice job trying to keep it right there. You see it's on the corner at 97. You don't have much time as a hitter or an umpire to kind of get a look at it.
Blew it right past him at 97 miles an hour. Boston's had a couple of standout offensive performers today. Greater coverage of baseball, sponsored by T-Mobile, will cover 3 hits by Xander Bogaerts in a 3-for-4 afternoon that included 2 doubles, a 2-run home run, and 3 runs scored. The Red Sox all-star shortstop having a big afternoon at home today. One gone for the rookie outfielder now, Mason Williams. Williams getting his first taste of Craig Kimbrel this afternoon.
I know Williams went into the outfield, playing right field. You got McCann on the bench. Romine just hit. May still be on the bench.
Yeah.
Nasty pitch.
Brett Gardner waiting on deck with 1 out and the base is empty. Mason Williams put together a good AAA season at Scranton Wilkes-Barre, hit almost 300. Started the season on the DL after recovering from right labrum surgery. One of the Yankees' late September call-ups, getting an opportunity here as a bench player. Boy, the Yankees could not have gotten off to a better start today. The 3-0 lead, Gary Sanchez hitting a home run. They appear to be getting to David Price, something that's happened already this year. Boston chipped away. They take that late lead in the 7th, and a called strike 3 taken by Williams.
Fastball that just stays on the inner half. Now McCann gets on deck, so it's up to Gardner to keep the inning going.
Brett Gardner this afternoon has walked and tripled in a run. Strike one from Kimbrel.
Cannot afford to have a big swing against Kimbrel. You got to let his power be your advocate as you short stroke try to find the ball. I know it's easier said than done, but you cannot have a big swing against a power guy.
And the Yankees are down to their final strike. "31st straight sold-out crowd at Fenway Park, hoping for the finishing touches." The 0-2. Rare has been the one-run Yankee loss this year. They have one of the best one-run records in baseball this year. The 1-2 home, 2 balls and 2 strikes to Brett Gardner now. When the Yankees scored their 2 in the 4th to repad their lead, it looked like they were off to the races, but just 2 hits from the 5th inning on. And from 0-2 to a full count now against Kimbrel.
It's kind of the approach you need. I mean, Gardner's kind of the one guy that could give Kimbrel fits because he doesn't seem to be super aggressive trying to launch the ball. So right now trying to protect the plate, thinking fastball if you're Gardner.
Still a full count. Brian McCann waiting for an opportunity on deck.
He went with the breaking ball. That ball stayed up. That ball did not break very much. Defensive breaking ball, 3-2. Sure, if you're Kimbrel throwing a breaking ball right there, you're going for the punch out.
And that'll do it. The Red Sox make it 3 in a row over the Yankees to start this long weekend series. For Craig Kimbrel, it's the first time in his career he's gone 4 up, 4 down with 4 strikeouts. Save number 27 in 29 opportunities, and the Red Sox pad their lead atop the AL East by a half game. David Price gets more run support. Did not earn the win, but the Red Sox earned the team W here today, and again have made it 3 in a row over rival New York. The updated AL East with Baltimore playing later on tonight at home against the Rays, and the Toronto Blue Jays out in Anaheim. Boston on top by 2.5. For John Smoltz and Ken Rosenthal, Matt Vasgersian saying so long from Fenway Park, where the Red Sox have beaten the Yankees 6-5. We'll get you out to the studio with Ryan Field, Eric Karros, and Pete Rose right after a quick commercial break.